Tunaingia vijijini, mijini na hata jijini kukuletea taarifa mchana kutwa. Usiku tunaketi kitako, tunadadavua tukichanganua taarifa na makala muhimu yanayokuhusu wewe na familia yako. Ungana na Bernard Ngozi kwenye Open Forum Political Show kuanzia saa 4 usiku hadi dakika zake kila siku ya wiki kwenye
Tonight, the show that gives you an opportunity to air what you feel and think about the latest development on our political front. Well, a lot is taking place so fast. Therefore, everybody must work hard to stay on the cutting edge as far as making sense of our politics is concerned, and of course, remaining on top of all matters. Tonight, this is Sound Candy Talk Live. 72 people have cast their vote already, and only 42 have liked the video. Justified. So from the look of things, the majority of Kenyans think the government need to up their. Glad to report we are back on the main channel as well, and therefore we are asking everybody to join from wherever you are. Sound Candy Talk Live YouTube channel, and we are also live on X as well as extended to Facebook.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome for another amazing episode, another amazing moment, another amazing night that we're having a discussion tonight of matters raising into our nation. So I want to welcome you all. Feel free and feel part and parcel of this as we're beginning the journey together.
Unatazama Sound Candy Talk Live.
Thank you and welcome back for this episode, because I know we're going to learn more, we're going to listen to more, we're going to have a discussion to more. For those who are joining up, the link for the briefly a conversation that we're going to have, we'll share that. If the link is on the comment section, use the link to join up the show and be part and parcel of this, as even we are putting everything to alignment and we are still building also our nation, making our nation to be a better place for everyone and for every Kenyan who wants or who comes or lives in Kenya as home, because tunasemanga wa Kenya uko ni nyumbani na tunarudi nyumbani. That's one of the amazing songs that I do like so much. And inasema narudi nyumbani, I'm coming home to my country. And tonight we will check out things that align up to our country, so that we can bring our country to alignment and we can bring our country to motion, so that we can see what is on the platter or what is it cooking all over along. So I want to welcome you. Feel free and feel part and parcel of this, so that we can roll together and begin up the conversation together. So today we will be checking about the briefing of the day, things that happened during the day. Then we'll check out the discussions that came out throughout the day, and it'll be good and it'll be great, so that we have a good conversation. Last week or the other day, yesterday, you were with Bernard, and today we are here with me. And I appreciate for this who are still joining up, and appreciate for those who are still moving in and inside the building. So on Team Facebook, we have still some people joining up. Team TikTok, we still have a lot of people. Whereby Team TikTok, we have Zera inside the house. We have Fast Mag Media. Thank you. And also other many people watching on same side TikTok. We also have Team Facebook. Team Facebook is being presented with some few guys there also. Here whereby we our best fan, fast friend also said good evening, Bernard, and everyone that is Esther, and it'll be good. Thank you for those who are still joining up. Thank you for those who are still joining up. Thank you for those who are still raising up. We will have a great conversation tonight as we are moving on swiftly and as we are bringing up everything to the alignment to it. So I welcome you all tonight so that we can have a good and a great conversation as we are analyzing the matters that has been raising up throughout the day. There are a lot of things happening throughout the day because of the nation is carrying a lot. One of the things, the story of Ross that we'll be checking up into our topics tonight. Ross Njeri saying that he says that her arrest has embodied her activity. So there's a lot. Ross was arrested because he opened a website to reject and analyze finance bills. So it bring out the project, and he was arrested. Also, we will be checking about a lot of things that has been happening tonight. One of the other things that happened tonight, the Tanzania police dismisses abused claims. They dismissed the abuse claims over the story of what happened briefly recently, and also say other things like the story we'll be checking, also revisiting the story of the murder of Kaspul KMP, where that we have a lot of things happen. We'll be checking also more details towards that. And also we'll be checking about the Kitui MC Jacinta. Thank you. And also we'll check we'll be checking also another things about a lot of things that have been happening throughout the day. Here we'll be checking out all many things that have been going out throughout the day. And today I want to welcome you tonight and show you that we will have a great and good moment together. We have such a nice vibe together as we are bringing to analyzation of one nation together and having love. So today we'll be spreading love and we'll be spreading what we share the love together, so that we can be having a good and amazing moment. Team TikTok, I know you are doing good. Team TikTok, I know you are doing amazing. I'll be reading your comments too. I'll be reading also your opinions too, and I'll be also checking into your details too. Today I didn't put the poll question, but we'll see how we will be rolling towards it for the Team YouTube and also Team Facebook. We really welcome you inside the building. See, Team Facebook is filling up, Team TikTok is coming up, is raising up, and I appreciate for the Team TikTokers because they are doing an amazing job. So I want to welcome you all. Feel free and feel part and parcel of this as we are moving on swiftly, bringing the alignment to the nation and bringing alignment to every place and every part of our nation. So I'll begin with the story that is breaking out about the story of one illness that is being said that is breaking out, so that Kenyans can be aware of this. The word is not happening. So Kenyans, please let us listen to this as we are having even great conversation over this and other many stories that have been breaking up due to the day.
Has confirmed an outbreak of the chikungunya virus across all the 6 sub-counties. Dozens of cases have been reported, with health officials saying the virus is spread by mosquito known as Aedes, which has resurfaced amid ongoing rains that have created widespread breeding grounds. This follows complaints by at least 15 residents of Bamburi Mwisho area, which reported unexplained illnesses in recent days. Francis Mtalaki has the details.
The last several days, hospitals across Mombasa County have recorded a surge in patients presenting with severe joint pain and other symptoms consistent with chikungunya fever. Out of 50 suspected samples collected and sent to the Kenya Medical Medical Research Institute Cambridge Labs in Nairobi, 45 samples were tested, with 25 cases testing positive for chikungunya and 1 case turning out positive for dengue fever.
Sub-county zote zimeathirika. Za sita za Mombasa County. Katika zile sample ambazo tumechukua ni zimekuwa represented katika hizo sub-county zote. Na utapata kwamba asilimia karibu kama 45 ya zile dalili ambazo watu wameenda nazo hospitali ni hizo chikungunya.
Just this time ndio tumeona si kama kawaida ya kuwa tunaona dengi ndio inasurpass magonjwa haya mengine. Wakati huu tumeona ni chikungunya ndio sasa imekuwa na higher upsurge than the dengue fever.
Chikungunya, just like malaria, is a mosquito-borne disease spread by the Aedes aegypti mosquito. The symptoms include severe joint pain in various parts of the body, persistent aches, dizziness, chills, vomiting and fatigue. Though the disease is rarely fatal, patients suffer from intense discomfort and prolonged pain.
Na huu mbu tabia yake huwa anauma mchana. Sana sana huku sehemu za chini kwenye miguu huku. Sehemu ambayo yani huwezi kusikia wakati akikuuma huwezi kusikia. Na kwa hivyo huyu mbu ndiye anaeneza huu ugonjwa.
Health officials in Mombasa are urging residents to keep their surroundings clean by draining stagnant water, sleeping under treated mosquito nets and observing general hygiene to prevent further spread. The county continues to roll out measures to control the outbreak. County officials have also activated emergency response teams and launched fumigation exercises in affected neighborhoods. Francis Ntalaki, Citizen TV, Mombasa.
That what is cooking, and there's a lot more that is cooking, and there's many things that are cooking. So one of these things that we'll be checking out, this is what we call a disease that's being brought up with the mosquito. Now we have realized that the mosquito doesn't bring only malaria, we also have this disease, so we have to be careful. They say sleep under treated mosquito net, clear all drainage waters near you, and also slash a lot of bushes near your house so that they cannot hide there, because they say they bite during the day. This is so serious. If this mosquito bites during the day, then this mosquito is on another level, meaning that it's no man's joke. It means the business. And if the mosquito means the business, this is serious. Because kidogo kuna vile hiyo mambo kidogo haiko sawa. So let us be careful, let us be watch out, and if you feel any signs and symptoms of that, please make sure you go to the hospital. Don't just take painkillers and then relax at home. Sometimes we take the painkillers, relax at home while the disease is piling up. The moment we'll be realizing that we have messed up, it is already long time ago. You can't go back again. So I want to tell you, please, let us take care of this and let us have a goal so that we can get a good solution for everything. If we don't do that, we will suffer so long because of this small disease that will hinder our economy, hinder our families, and hinder our joy to come and to us. And that's why I'm here today to remind you of that, so that we can be there. Watch out. For those who don't know about the mosquito, please be aware of it, so that when you're coming back or you're traveling, be aware of it. They bite so painful. That's it about the mosquitoes. So I want to welcome you. Please come tell me, what do you feel about this, and we see moving on swiftly.
You are watching Sound Candy Talk live.
Nairobi. In a landmark judgment, a Nairobi woman and her spouse have scored a major victory against a doctor and the Aga Khan Health Service Kenya for negligence. Today, the court awarded the couple 157 million shillings in damages following a botched surgery that resulted in the loss of the woman's cervix. The details of that story with Brenda Wanga.
The nearly 20 years search for justice for Naila Qureshi has finally come to a rewarding end. Naila was admitted to the Aga Khan Health Service Kenya between the 13th and 16th of September 2006 for what was meant to have been routine treatment for pelvic endometriosis. The court was told that the first defendant in the case, identified as Dr. Rafik Parker, botched the surgery, leaving the plaintiff in severe physical pain and emotional harm. High Court Judge Alexander Muteti found that the hospital's gynecologist performed an unauthorized removal of the woman's cervix during a procedure initially consented for, the removal of her uterus and ovary. This act was deemed grossly negligent and a violation of the patient's rights. As a consequence of the unauthorized surgery, the woman suffered life-altering injuries, leading to the loss of her employment and earning capacity. Both she and her husband experienced significant loss of amenities and consortium, profoundly affecting their quality of life. For their losses, the couple have been awarded landmark damages to the tune of 157 million shillings. The judge awarded them 7 million shillings as special damages to cover the cost of treatment in Nairobi and South Africa, where she eventually had the botched surgery repaired. He also awarded her 30 million for the unauthorized removal of her cervix, 40 million shillings for the loss of consortium, 20 million shillings for the loss of amenities, 10 million shillings for pain and suffering, 20 million shillings for the loss of capacity to earn, and 30 million shillings was awarded to the second plaintiff for the loss of society and services. While the second defendant, another medical practitioner involved, was cleared of negligence, the court held the third defendant, the hospital, accountable for breaching its duty of care. The hospital had allowed Dr. Rafik to practice despite being aware of his prior disbarment from medical practice in Uganda. Furthermore, the hospital's failure to provide essential diagnostic equipment such as a flexible cystoscope impeded the timely detection of complications that were later identified and treated by specialists in South Africa. The woman told the court that due to the defendant's negligence, she suffered the loss of her cervix, resulting in the loss of sexual enjoyment and the ability to satisfy her husband sexually. The plaintiffs claimed that the nature of the injury necessitates sustained and continuous medical treatment for which they are seeking compensation for future medical costs. Brenda Wanga, Citizen TV.
Is lawmaker Nimrod Mbai.
That's what it is, and that's what's going on. Yeah, nasema Kenya mambo yanakimbia mbio, mambo imechemka, and we don't have place to breathe in or breathe out. Please tell me your views all about this. It's what it is. Let me shout out to what to Team TikTok a little bit. We are moving also. If that's also checking out Smart just for that. Team TikTok, we have a lot of people on Team TikTok. We see Zera anasema aje, Zera Wamatanga. Wamatonga. That's my guy from Dar es Salaam. Tunamwona nani mwingine papa. Tunamwona kuna mtu anajiita Rosea. Thank you Rosea. Kuna mwingine hapa anajiita anajiita Nya. Anajiita BSC. Thank you. Tunaona nani mwingine hapa. I am Esther. Thank you Che. Naona mwingine hapa anajiita Hana Mohammed. Oh, thank you. Alafu na mwingine anaitwa Val. Anajiita Val Big Talk. Thank you. Naona huyu mwingine tena ananifuata pale. We hata jandika jina. Please write your name, please, so that I can give a shout out to you. I see Zara one more time. I see Nicholas. And Nicholas 685. I can see him. I see my Maina, thank you. I see Liz Bless, thank you. I see Emast, thank you Emast. Na muona mwingine hapa ni nani anajiita Kariston Njoroge. Thank you. Namona hapo kuna GY Mo. Thank you, Liz Blaze. Thank you. Liz Blaze has been really, doing something. I see Rona Pro. Thank you, Rona, for following. And I see Mercy. Mercy, thank you. Nani mwingine mwenyezi. Sija shout out. I see Joy Fanuel. Thank you for those who are still joining up. Thank you for those who are still tapping the system. For those who are still sharing up, I will be reading your comment section as even we are moving on swiftly and checking more details. So this is one of the information that I've been playing up on the screen, and we have seen what is going on in Kenya. These are our brothers, these are our sisters. But the moment we do this, everything goes bad. Okay, let me take you to another place a little bit as you're moving on swiftly.
Statement that anyone who criticizes President William Ruto cannot be assured of their freedom or safety has sparked outrage and raised serious concerns about the growing political intolerance in the country. The Wiper Party has strongly condemned the lawmaker following the assault of Jacinta Mwangi, a Wiper Party member of County Assembly who publicly criticized President William Ruto during a funeral last weekend. As Emmanuel Toh now details, this is not the first time the lawmaker Nimrod Mbai has made headlines for controversial reasons. He was previously arrested and charged in 2023 for allegedly assaulting a Kenya Power and Lighting Company employee.
She had just declared her loyalty, publicly backing Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka for the 2027 general election. When mayhem broke out, 4 men standing beside Kitui East MP Nimrod Mbai, allegedly hired goons, rushed to the stage, ripped the microphone from her hands, then assaulted her in front of shocked supporters. Jacinta Mwangi, a nominated MCA under the Wiper Party banner, becomes the latest victim in what critics are calling a pattern of growing political intolerance in Kitui East constituency, allegedly fueled by the very leaders sworn to protect democratic space.
Nilivamiwa na goons after kuongelelea mambo ya uraisi ya Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. Pale ambapo hao vijana walikuja na marungu na wakanivamia na kunipiga.
The MCA calling for justice.
Juu tukiendelea hivi itakuwa ni mahadhara, ni maafa kwa watu wetu wa Kitui.
The MP, who did not comment about the incident which happened on Saturday in Kitui County, however went ahead to issue these warning hours later during the Madaraka Day celebrations.
Hatutaruhusu mtu atuze Rais William Ruto akiwa kipindi. You have the freedom of speech, but we are not going to assure you of your freedom of speech.
The MP saying it was not allowable for anyone to castigate the president who had brought a bag of goodies to the region.
Rais anakuja kutuletea lami. Sisi hatutavumilia mtu akitusi Rais William Ruto tukiwa kipindi. Hata ikiwa ni kwa matanga, ikiwa ni kwa mazishi.
The Wiper Party sending a statement slamming the MP, the party Secretary General Shakila Abdallah adding that the incident was a gender-based violence in politics carried out by cowards who fear women with opinions. This was not the first time the MP with a loose tongue was on the spot. 2 years ago, he was arrested and charged for slapping a Kenya Power engineer who was reportedly trying to disconnect an illegal power line at the legislator's home in Kajiado County. The same year, an MCA from Kitui County was also attacked by goons, also allegedly hired by the MP. President William Ruto is set to visit the Ukambani region, including Kitui County, later this month. Emmanuel Toh, Citizen TV.
With a question by...
This is what is cooking and this is what is going on. Natumai unaona vile mambo inaenda, natumai unaona vile mambo iko, kwa sababu sitaki nikudanganya, nataka nikupeleke pole pole tu kielewa mambo, because we are here to understand, despite we are here to get the point, but we are here to understand and know what's going on with our nation or what's happening with our nation. Let us we divert a little bit. Let us check one of the matters of the story of the night which is the story of his beloved daughter. This beloved daughter called Rose. Rose was arrested and he's been released. Let us listen to what Rose is saying, and then we will know what happened.
The creation of a platform for feedback on the Finance Bill 2025 says she will become more deliberate about her activism. The web engineer and activist is settling back to her life's routine after a hectic few days during which she sprang to national prominence and fame, accused of cybercrime. Authorities claim she was behind the development of a digital platform designed to collect public feedback on the Finance Bill, an application that purportedly disrupted parliamentary email systems, according to the government. The soft-spoken mother of two spoke to Citizen TV's Ben Kirui.
A day after she was released on personal bond by the Milimani law courts, web developer and activist Rose Njeri was back in Nairobi's Embakasi area, quietly retwisting her dreadlocks at a local salon. It had been a long weekend in police custody, and it took much persuasion for her to agree to this interview. Njeri describes her arrest as ridiculous, but says the experience has only strengthened her resolve.
Umenilalisha cell usiku 4. You've kept me away from my kids for nothing. Yeah, you've awakened something. I saw it online. Someone chambuad the bill. Someone was like, we need an emailer like last year. See, last year there was one. But it's not an original idea. I was like, I can do this because now I have a few skills that I've picked up from school. So to me, it's just najenga portfolio.
She recounts being trailed by officers from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, DCI, and arrested during a graduation ceremony in Nairobi's industrial area. She was then taken to her home, where detectives conducted a search and seized electronics and digital devices.
Asema, we mama, tunajua mali unaishi. House number 31. Ebu panda hizo stairs haraka matugonge.
The 4 days that she spent in custody, she says, were the longest of her life. Yet the officers didn't seem to know what to charge her with.
Watu walipiga malaps kadhaa kabla wanifikishe DCI. So wakaniandikisha statement. But I told them I don't know how to write because I don't know what you want me to state. As in, ni nini nimefanya? You've not told me at this point. So sasa ndo wakaniambia, okay, I'm going to ask you questions and then you'll answer. Why did you make the Chrome extension you made? Nilitulia. Because at first I thought, jama, maybe I have bought a phone at some point in my life. It may be, those stories you hear. Or maybe mtu ameniekelea nimemuiba. But it's that.
Njeri was eventually presented in court on Tuesday and released on a personal bond of 100,000 Kenya shillings. The court is expected to rule on June 20th whether she will stand a trial on cybercrime charges. Her case has drawn sharp reactions from the civil society groups, who argue it reflects a growing crackdown on civic tech and online activism in Kenya. Ben Kirui, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
This is what's going on with this lady, and this is so serious. This is so bad. I want to check out this as even we are moving on higher.
You are watching Sound Candy Talk live. At Sound Candy Talk, we provide live UHD broadcasting for church services, talk shows and podcasts, weddings, live bands, products and services launches, webinars and trainings, Zoom meetings, conferences, seminars, exhibitions, and virtual concerts.
Is jam-packed because our topic is very interesting.
Thank you and welcome back. Let us watch this as we are moving on swiftly.
And very pertinent to this country moving forward. Right next to me, Angela Ambitho. She's CEO of InfoTrack. Right next to her, Professor Peter Kagwanja, CEO, Africa Policy Institute. On the far end, Dr. Barak with the 2 R's Muluka, all the way from Emmanuel. political commentator. Folks, thanks so much for making it today. I appreciate it. Let's go straight to Tanzania. Why not? Huh? Angela, let's start with you. Kenyan activists in Tanzania. Wrong move, right move? Your thoughts?
You know, Jeff, when I watched what was happening to both the politicians and the civil society activist Mwangi, it took me back to 2007 when I launched the InfoTrack poll, both here in Kenya and in Tanzania. And the chief guest in Tanzania was late Reginald Mengi. And we had people from Harris Poll coming in from New York. And we just had a very nice launch. I think, Barack, you were there in Nairobi. And when we got to Tanzania and we started talking about, polling and what polling does in terms of, representing the views of people, etc. I remember that when Mengi stood up to speak, he said, "My sister, we will allow you to do many things and we encourage you to do many things in terms of research. But the one thing you must not do here is polling. Our country is not ready for it." What am I saying? That Tanzania, whilst a good neighbor, is very conservative. Their brand of politics is still, perhaps where we were, as Barack was mentioning before, in the 1960s, late 1960s. Or early 70s. And we are very pluralistic. We are very assertive. We have, a very, dynamic way of exercising our freedoms. And when we forget that, these things are very, easy to exercise in our country and try to then replicate them, the same things, the same actions in a neighboring country, we end up, suffering what some of our colleagues and compatriots have suffered.
Prof, when you see the likes of Dr. Willie Mutunga, Martha Karua, Boniface Mwangi, all those, they get to the airport. Well, Boniface was in a hotel for a few days, but they get to the airport and they're literally turned around and deported. Literally.
Let me put it this way. What my sister is saying is right, that Tanzania is not like us in many ways. And that Tanzania is what we were in the late 60s, where during the one-party state. Then we became like Tanzania in the whole of the 80s and 90s. So Tanzania is stuck where we were in 1992, 2002. That's Tanzania for you. It's a situation where the old is dying and the young has refused to be born. You accept multi-party, you allow a few parties, but you are not ready to open up the society. And at the same time, there is resistance from below. So what Willie Mutunga and Mother Karua and others are simply doing is exercising what we'd call regionalism. They're more complicated concepts like liberal internationalism. Basically, you are saying, if my neighbor is suffering abuse, I cannot sit back and say, it is not me, it's my neighbor. I think Tanzania finds itself in a very awkward situation because Mother Karua, Willie Mutunga, and Suluhu Hassan travel on the same passport. The difference is, it is issued by Kenya or it's issued by Tanzania. But even me, I travel on an East African passport. The same case to everybody else. So to say that there's a border here, therefore you can replace your people, doesn't work. The reason why the Kenyans were there is because the leader of opposition is facing a trial of his life. If he's convicted, he gets hanged on the highest tree in Tanzania. Now, we were in similar situation, and many people came to our aid. You remember 1992? You remember Hemstone?
Yes.
You remember other people from outside who came?
Yeah.
So if others came in to your rescue, what moral ground do you have to sit back and watch a Tanzanian being lynched, other Tanzanians being killed? So this is the situation, this is the moral dilemma we find ourselves in, that you don't want to interfere. I would not do the same in Zambia. because we have nothing in common with the Zambian. I don't travel on a Zambian, and a Zambian does not travel on a Kenyan passport. But we are East African. Every time I am told to stand up to sing the national anthem, if they don't sing the East African anthem, I remind them we have not finished because I'm East African. So I think that's the lesson we need to convey to Tanzania, that we are East Africans. And therefore, we need to stand up for the rights of everyone.
Dr. Barak, you think is there a lot of paranoia by the Tanzanians?
I think there's a paranoia throughout East Africa. There's paranoia in Kenya. There's paranoia in Uganda. There's paranoia in Tanzania. There's paranoia everywhere within the East African community. The difference is in the stages. The difference is in the manifestation of the paranoia. But the paranoia is there. The entity that we call the State House in East Africa, in the community, is in panic. It's not sure of where it is standing, how it relates to the people. And when we look at Tanzania, as my two colleagues here say, is still behind. In fact, Professor, I think it's even further behind than we attempt to suggest. Because here, if you look at ourselves, in 1991, 1992, we were agitating for space. We were speaking the truth to State House. And we were telling President Moi, you have got to open up the space. In Tanzania, you have got the whimpering of Tundu Lissu and Chadema, which is really something very minor as compared and contrasted with what was happening in Kenya at that time. And to secure herself, President Samia Suluhu decides that this person should start his journey on the death row. And then you have got, and here I've got to agree completely with my colleagues, the institution of parliament that has abdicated its responsibility. You heard how they spoke in that august house, if it is still august in any way, justifying what was happening. You see, the East African passport should stand for something. It should mean something. Here in Nairobi, we were harassed, we were terrorized a few years ago, spending nights outside the Nyayo House, seeking to switch our Kenyan passport for the East African community passport, that we have got a common parliament. We even have a common court. Tanzania itself is the headquarters of the East African community. We have got a number of protocols on movement of the people. We have got a political pillars, one of the 4 fundamental pillars of the East African Treaty, that we look forward to a moment when we are going to be federated as the East African community. And then you have these people, and Angie, I don't look at them as politicians. I saw Willy Mutunga and Martha Karua as lawyers who are going to this neighboring country where we have become borderless. We even have a common border post, all over the place in this African community. And they have arrived here just to go in court, to witness, not to do anything else, to witness. You have got, of course, Boni Mwangi, and you have got Agatha Atahire, who are, of course, activists, but who have been in this country before. And when they were there, they did not engage in any activism. In any event, activism is part of the parcel of the law in the 3 East African countries. At least on paper, there's nothing criminal about mobilizing people.
Prof.
I think, Jeff, just before we move on, I think this aspect or concept of a borderless East African community is purely on paper. I travel quite a bit, and I will tell you that traveling to Tanzania to do business or even for pleasure is sometimes akin to, traveling overseas. You actually question...
Traveling overseas, Angie, is very easy.
Yes.
You get to Europe
yes.
On a visa of any one of the countries in the Union.
Yeah.
And you will go anywhere and everywhere without anybody.
You see, here in this case, you don't need the visa. But in reality, when you get to the, immigration desk, the questions that you are asked. In February, I went for a conference, and the kind of preparation that my hosts, which was University of Dar es Salaam, had to do was shocking. Invitation letter, where I was staying, how long I would be there for, who was going to be paying. And I said, if I have to do this with a neighbor like Tanzania, you can imagine then what would be happening if it is, you are required to travel anywhere else. And do we really have this borderless kind of community that we're talking about? Indeed, the person who was behind me in the queue, a young gentleman, very, very, innocently said, I'm coming for a meeting. And he was told, where are your documents? He said, we have an office here. And he was told, young man, step aside. Because then it was going to accrue a work permit, a temporary work permit.
And yet there's that freedom of...
So where is this freedom?
It's part of the East African Community Treaty. Freedom of movement of people, services, of goods. But Jeff, Angie raises a very fundamental question. You get to the airport in Nairobi, and you will see a desk for East Africans.
Yes.
And it's not just one desk, there are several desks for East Africans.
Correct.
You get to Tanzania, Dar es Salaam, Julius Nyerere International Airport. I was there a few weeks ago. Tanzanians, foreigners. So we are all foreigners.
Yes. In their eyes.
There is one problem perhaps we need to put into context. Tanzania does not believe in East African community. Tanzania.
Why do you say that?
It doesn't. I'll tell you why. Tanzania does not believe that it is in the right. It's like somebody who is in a relationship that they're not happy with and they know they need to leave, but they can't leave. It's very painful. Tanzania is very comfortable in SADC. It's a member of the East African community and it's a member of SADC. Now, what we are complaining about, neither Tanzania nor its SADC members complain about. Like yourself and everybody else, I lived in South Africa. And if you are in South Africa, going to Swaziland, going to Lesotho, going to Botswana, going to Zimbabwe, going to Angola is not an issue. You just get in the plane, go in and get out. Nobody prevents you. Because they have that community. Now today, if you want to go to Uganda, you want to go to Rwanda, you want to go to Burundi, nobody stops you, even South Sudan. Nobody even asks any question. But why Tanzania? Even Ethiopia, and Ethiopia is not a member of the East African community. The only country possibly be asked is Somalia. But Ethiopia, all the way up to Burundi, nobody will ask you. Why? Because they believe in the community, the East African community. But Tanzania believes that it's a frontline state. It is part of the states that were, in fact, its identity is the South, not the East. It finds itself geographically in the East, but its heart and soul are in the South.
So it's reluctant then?
So it's a very reluctant member of the East African community. I guess why Tanzania tolerates the East African community because of the gains it has because of Arusha and the fact that Arusha is the capital of all of us. But you can also see that it has not invested much in Arusha.
Dr. Let's not forget that a few months ago, Ugandan opposition leader, Kizza Besigye.
Yes.
You know, he was yanked out of his riverside apartments, dumped into a car, driven more than 10 hours back into Uganda. It's a sale. I mean, are we
that's the paranoia we are talking about. Paranoia in State House in Dar es Salaam, paranoia in State House in Entebbe, and paranoia in State House in Nairobi. And one could talk about paranoia elsewhere within the community. Indeed, elsewhere, perhaps even everywhere in Africa, on the continent. I was reading Professor Kagwanja a few weeks ago, and I also read Justin Muturi, just attempting to appreciate the African condition today. It's like the people who are in power in State House are not very sure of themselves. And I think it is largely because they are not managing the promises and the expectations. That we have got a massive youthful population that is emerging from institutions of learning and training, either as qualified graduates or as dropouts, sometimes as a bit of each of those two, and they don't know what to do with them. And this Africa is rising. Make no mistake about it. Jeff, a year ago, almost the day today, I sat here with you in June last year with young people here, Gen Zs.
Yes.
And people were saying, what is Barack doing with Gen Zs on JKL? And we said in this studio here that if this government does not watch out, these young people are going to give it a shock treatment such as they have never seen. Yeah. This continent should know that the youth are rising. You cannot have a country where, and it's a community actually, the entire East African community, where you can stop anywhere, marketplace, anywhere during the day, and you have throngs of thousands of young people who have materialized to see whether some 200 bob are going to drop. Yeah. And they're huge throngs. And the people who should be sitting in their offices to plan and to implement, create wealth, create employment, productive employment, it's not there. So they are in panic. There's paranoia. When they look at Kizza Besigye, they want to pretend that he's the problem. That's just a scapegoat. And this spirit of Traore that people start seeing as the salvation is beginning to spread. You look at Burkina Faso, ECOWAS tell them, we don't want you. They tell Mali, we don't want you. They tell Niger, we don't want you. The three countries come together and they say, it doesn't matter, we will get into our own union. And it's a spirit that is spreading. Finally, when you have moments such as this, if you're in leadership in State House, you sit back to listen, to read, to ask, to receive answers, and to implement. You do not engage in high-handed, arm-twisting tactics. And in a country like ours, early political campaigns of the kind that you are seeing, because they are going nowhere. The more you go out, the more you twist people's arms, the more angry and repulsive things get. So in the proper order of time, that path, that opportunity you had of evolutionary change fails. And when the moment is ripe for change, the change is going to take place either through evolution, in the sense that those who are in power recognize that the time has come when we must do the right things. But if they don't, then evolution adds an R at the beginning.
Becomes revolution. Folks, okay, we're done with Tanzania. We're going to take a break, come back, talk about issues Kenya. Rose Njeri. She's a web designer. Right? Come on, man. What kind of paranoia are we talking about? You jailer, you keep a...
You don't even know what charge to bring up against her. You hang around with her. I was reading Franz Kafka some time back, the trial, remember? Prof. And there's a man, Mr. K, who is arrested. And he does not know what offense he has committed. The prosecutor does not know what offense he has committed. The trial judges do not know what offense he has committed. Even his attorney does not know what offense he has committed. But in the end, they sentence him to death.
Good Lord.
Yeah,
and that's where we are.
It was in South Korea.
That's where we are.
It was in South Korea where this guy is actually accused of being disrespectful of the country because they said, "Goddamn!" I mean, he couldn't cross the road, he couldn't do anything, and the repression was so much, and therefore he was also sentenced to hang, just because it is in Gogo Wathiongo's book, what do you call it? Colonizing the Mind.
Yes.
I think there's a story there.
Okay, and let's not forget, it's exactly 3 weeks today until the first anniversary of the Gen Z demonstrations.
Yes.
3 weeks today.
3 weeks today.
First anniversary. We'll talk about that and plenty more issues. Broad-based government. Is there a merger coming between ODM and UDA?
I think they're calling it bread-based, not bread-based.
Bread-based.
It's a broad-based conspiracy.
We come back with a dictionary to see whether it's bread or broad.
Keep tuning, folks. It's a great conversation at Koinange Jeff at Citizen TV Kenya. Hashtag Check It Live. Check It Live. Takes a break. We'll be back in a moment.
Kutoka vijijini, mijini hadi jijini. Hii ni Sound Kanti Talk Live.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for making time to join us. This is Sound Candy Talk, open forum political discussion show, the show that gives you an opportunity to air what you feel and think about the latest development on our political front. Well, the civil society is up in arms against both the Kenyan government and the Tanzanian government over their reaction on the claims of torture to the Kenyan and Ugandan citizen while in Tanzania. Now, as this comes into play, the deafening silence of both administration after this came in the open is something that is disturbing every right-thinking human being when he looks into this entire saga with the eye of justice. How in the world can any country fold their hands when their citizens are tortured in the neighboring country And it appears it's like a coordinated kind of torture arrangement whereby no country wants to own up on this matter. I believe by now there should be some protest later that would have already crossed the border, headed to Dodoma or Dar es Salaam or whichever place where Samia can be located. But as this plays out, it appears somebody wants to cover another person for whatever crime that may come into play. This is not acceptable. At this point in time, not at this time and age. I call on everyone to be on the alert, even as we get down into this particular discussion. I am not a happy man when this is happening to a person who just went to witness a hearing of a court case. Whatever Tanzania administrations were responding to, they need to come out clean and tell us the crimes committed by these citizens who are activists that were in their borders legally. Well, as that comes into play, one of the critics of Samia, who is a bishop as well as a member of parliament, has suffered a setback by reason of the government deregistering his denomination that has over 2,000 churches simply because he's raising questions on the abductions and disappearance of people in Tanzania. So as this comes into play, it appears there is more than meets the eye when it comes to the administration of Mama Samia Suluhu. Alisema hao ni watu wa amani, hawapendi fujo, hawapendi vurugu. Haya, askofu huyo, kanisa kafungwa, ikatolewa katika hesabu ya makanisa Tanzania, washirika wanateta, askofu ametangaza siku 7 za kufunga na kuomba. Sa, ni kipi hiki kinachoendelea Tanzania ambacho tunapaswa kujifunza kutoka nacho? Nakushukuru unapojiunga nasi, tafadhali shika doria, karibisha mtu, tumakinike pamoja. Samahani kuanza kuchelewa, lakini naamini unatupata kwa njia iliyo safi. Tuambie unatupata ukiwa wapi. Watu wa TikTok, tuone nguvu zenu hapo, mshike doria, nataka kuona likes ikipanda, karibisha mtu na kumakinika. Toa maoni yako mahala pote ulipo, utasikika ama utasomwa wakati umeandika hoja yako ambayo ni muhimu. But it is sad that the more things change, the more they remain the same. Now, I'm not saying this because I'm exonerating the Kenya government. We have had abductions and disappearance of persons in this country. Yes. But the torturing of foreigners, despite the fact that Besigye was abducted from this country and then of course carried back to his own country, and then of course the court proceedings started. But what I want us to look at clearly here is there is more than meets the eye on the issues with this Boniface and Agatha's torture treatment in Tanzania that we can't be silent over. And so the civil society and of course other bodies are raising red flags on all this, and they are seeking redress. And it appears somebody is going to end up either at the ICC or anywhere, but there will be court proceedings on the same. And if the 3 governments, that is Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, are covering up this evil, then it appears that the international community will need to come in, or the civil society will have to take this matter to the Hague. That is what we are, looking at. And then, of course, Rose Njeri was freed today. The lady was, arrested for opening a website that is enlightening Kenyans about the Finance Bill 2025. She's out on bail of 100,000 Kenya shillings. And that's also a story that we need to look at keenly, because it appears that we we want change, yet we don't want change. We're making one step forward, 3 steps backward, and that to me, it's very disturbing. As a government, we have to come out, and be forthright. We're either wanting to deceive Kenyans or tell them the truth. Why should you hide things in the finance bill and you want us to claim that you have done public participation? Which other way can people express themselves about the finance bill except them being able to interact and then, of course, look at this and then guided by the experts or people who are, gifted in that particular area? So why arrest somebody for the same? That's a matter we have discussed and will continue to question until we get a lasting solution. Then the bombshell, the Auditor General comes up with revelations again. The NSSF, pesa ya wazee, wale watu wamestaafu, 16 billion missing. Are you getting that? God have mercy on our country. Hata wale wanaenda retire tunawaibia. Haya, naomba tumakinike. Karibisha mtu, link ya kutumia kuingia studio nishaweka kwa comment section na kusubiri wewe uje studio tukajadili masuala haya. Naomba tuanze na hiyo story ya nani hiyo. Tuanze na civil society wakishtumu masuala haya yaliyotokea katika yale mateso ya wakereketwa wa kutetea haki za kibinadamu wakiwa Tanzania. Tutaanza na hiyo kisha tuingilie swala la makanisa kufungwa. Tumefikia hapo. Eti mtu akisema kwamba una abduct watu unafungiwa kanisa. Tanzania huru kweli. Haya, naomba tuangalie hiyo tunapoanza. Karibisha mtu moja kwa moja. 9 people. Can we get more people to join, please? The sharing of the link is very low. Facebook naona watu 3. Sound Candy Talk Live 5. Sound Candy Talk 2. Naomba tafadhali tukaribishane. Makinika katika kuhakikisha kwamba hakuna anayesalia nyuma katika kuelewa hiki kinachoendelea na vipi tutakavyookoka kutokana na haya maangamizi ambayo kama yamekusudiwa kinyume na sisi.
For KTN from Milimani Lokots, Nairobi. A wave of anguish and defiance ripples across the East African region as voices from civil society and human rights groups mount pressure on the Tanzanian government, calling for accountability for brutality and torture allegedly inflicted on activists Boniface Mwangi and Agatha Atuhaire. Their heart-wrenching stories of pain, fear, and resilience shared just a day ago have stirred a global conscience. Now, legal networks are urging international bodies to intervene, demanding justice, reparations, and a promise that such darkness will not return. Our reporter, Wanjiku Wanjiru, with the story.
Addressing the press in Nairobi, the Law Society of Kenya and the Police Reforms Working Group called on the East African community and global actors to hold the Tanzanian government accountable for alleged human rights violations. They are demanding the immediate arrest and prosecution of all officers implicated in the abuse of Kenyan activist Boniface Mwangi and Ugandan activist Agatha Atuhaire.
Violation of human rights only agitates members of the public because whenever you show might is right, the citizens will retaliate when they feel that they have been pushed to absolutely too much.
We petition both Kenyan and Ugandan parliamentarians summon their respective foreign affairs ministers to account for the actions taken to protect their nationals and spell out the steps being taken to secure justice and compensation for the suffering and trauma experienced.
The groups have described the incident as part of a disturbing trend of state-sponsored repression across Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. They are accusing regional governments of systematically silencing dissent through violence, intimidation, and unlawful arrests.
Unless urgently addressed, this and the brutal treatment of Boniface Mwangi and Agatha Atuhaire shall remain a stark indictment of violent repression and impunity under President Samia Suluhu Hassan's government. And the East African community's silence shall render it complicit.
Government of Tanzania must arrest and prosecute all officers suspected of responsibility for the human rights violations against Boniface Mwangi and Agatha Atuhaire and bring them to justice in a fair trial.
Sentiments echoed by PLP Martha Karua, who decried what she termed a wave of repression targeting opposition leaders and civil society actors.
These events are not isolated. They mark a dangerous, coordinated assault on democracy by our leaders across East Africa.
The appeal follows harrowing testimonies by Mwangi and Atuhaire, who recounted being tortured, sexually assaulted, and forcibly deported by Tanzanian police officers. Human rights groups are now demanding justice and compensation for the victims. Wanjiko Wanjiru, KTN.
The country.
Okay, there you have it. Civil society and all over the East African community raising red flags on the silence of the three governments when their citizens are involved. Is this a coordinated, well-calculated push to suppress dissenting voices, intimidate, and cause them not to question government anymore? What's going on? I need to hear what you think about the whole thing. But in my opinion, this is outright impunity to start with, in the sense that the people doing this is not that they're ignorant. And if this is the means by which they want to retain power, then we are doing so poorly. Something needs to happen, and that is the imminent change in East Africa has to be realized, especially by the citizen. We cannot have governments, instead of them acting in the interest of the masses, they are suppressing the masses, violating their rights, and want to be respected and honored by the same. This ought not to happen. And so not only for Tanzania, but Uganda and Kenya must come out clean. We need to know who is supporting evil and who is fighting against evil. There is no any reasonable explanation on why anybody should be tortured at this point in time. It is too late in the day for anybody to be using the barbaric, primitive means of obtaining information from anyone, especially via inflicting pain, intimidation, and all manner of, weapons that are deployed, including sexual assault. This is not it. So as we look into this, I really would love to hear what you think about the situation, but to me, nothing impressive, nothing at all. And I thought if we have a woman as a president or as a leader, she will be motherly, she will be homely, and therefore things will not be as harsh and as uncaring as they are happening. How come under Samia we are having this happening under her watch? What's happening with mothers? I mean, motherhood is supposed to be all caring and all considerate. Kama kuna watu ambao kuelewa, wanapaswa kuelewa masuala ya maisha na masuala ya kuhakikisha kwamba kila mtu anapata haki, si ni uongozi wa kina mama? Haya, nataka unaambie Suluhu anafanya vipi? Yeye ndio taswira kamili ya kina mama ama kina mama watamkana? Naomba maoni yako. Karibu kila mmoja, asante sana. Hapa namuona Simba Omar Said anasema Watanzania wamekaliwa chapati na serikali yao, wengi wamebakwa, hawawezi kuongea. Haya, inaonekana hii ndio taswira ambayo tunaipata kutokana na haya ambayo yanatendeka. wanasema akumulikaye mchana usiku atakuchoma. Kama au ni askari alafu wanaweza kufanya hayo kwa mgeni, mwenyeji naye atafanywaje? Mnaambie nyinyi. Hawa ni wakereketwa ambao wanasimamia haki ya binadamu, lakini ya kibinadamu, lakini ni wageni. Wanatolewa nguo, wanaamrishwa watoe nguo zote, alafu wafanyiwe hayo au shetani, na ni wageni. So kama ili genge ama ili kikosi, wacha tuwapatie jina la iki kikosi ambacho kinafanya haya maovu kinafanya hivi wageni, je, akipatikana Mtanzania ambaye anasimamia haki anafanyiwa yepi? So inaonekana kumekuwa na kumekuwa kuficha kwingi kwa maovu Tanzania. Wakati umefika tuyazungumzie wazi wazi. Hakuna vile askari watamchukua mgeni wakamfanya yale ambayo yanasemekana yalifanywa Boniface Mwangi na Agatha wakiwa wageni kwa nchi ya kigeni. Kuna kitu penye moshi kuna moto. Haya, mnaambie, na ningependa Watanzania nanyi mtupatie hiyo habari. Najua mimi ni masemegi, so kwa hivyo lakini ikifika swala la Tanzania ujumbe wenu utakuwa ule ule ambao mliambiwa na mwalimu. Okay, nione hapa nani huyu. Willy Mwadilo anasema Tanzania President Samia is but her background in Zanzibar, and Zanzibar President is Mwinyi. Zanzibar, so they are dominating Tanganyika. Both of them are Muslims. They must have a problem with church. Haya, huyo ni Willy Mwadilo anasema kuna kitu hapa ambacho kinaendelea, na labda kinatokana na kwamba Samia ni Mzanzibari ama anatokea Zanzibar na alitunukiwa kuwa rais kwa kufika mbele ya haki kwa Magufuli, na inaonekana ajenda inaweza kuwa kinyume na makanisa kwa sababu Zanzibari uongozi ni wa Kiislamu na huyu mama Muislamu. So kuna kitu hapa ama vipi? Huyo ni Willy Mwadilo. Wewe mtaniambia nyinyi, lakini mnajua hapa mimi nasimamia haki, na kama kuna kitu ambacho sipendi kabisa kuingilia ni masuala ya vita vya dini. Kama kuna vita ambavyo ni vigumu sana kuingilia ndani, ni vita vya dini. So ili ambalo Mwasuluhu ameamua kufunga makanisa itakuwa kwaje? Hiyo ndio swali tunauliza, na ningependa mtu anipatie takwimu kamili. Kuna Waislamu wangapi Tanzania? Wakristo wangapi? Kura za Kiislamu zinatosha kumfanya Suluhu apate second term? Kwa sababu kama ameguza kanisa na kanisa kubwa kama hili ambalo liko na matawi 2,000, hiyo ni population kubwa sana. So itakuwa kwaje? Ama kutakuwa na ile niongezeni toshe ili nifike. Haya, karibu kila moja, asante sana. Okay, sawa sawa. Hapa Omar Said anasema watizedi wengi hayo mambo yamewakasirisha, lakini hawaongei, wanaongea chini ya maji, wanaogopa kupotezwa. Na hilo ndio swala tunazungumzia hapa. Mbona serikali iwe madarakani kupoteza watu, kuangamiza watu, kuabduct watu? Kwani ni serikali gani hii? I mean, serikali za Afrika zinaudhi. Okay? Zinaudhi. Wewe umepewa mamlaka ya kuongoza nchi. Badala uongoze nchi, wewe umeamua sasa uanze kuangamiza watu. kunasa watu na kuwapoteza. What is that? What is the whole purpose of you being a leader? I mean, did you get into leadership so that you can mess up the country and mess up the livelihood of people? Snatch their voices? Make sure they can't say nothing? Please. Lisemwalo lipo kama lipo linjiani laja. Kama wewe utosheki ama utoshelezi aufikii kile kiwango ambacho nchi inahitajika, unang'atuka kutoka kwa kiti. Upeane kwa wale ambao wanaweza kuongoza nchi ambayo iko huru, nchi ambayo inaweza kosolewa. Hatuwezi kuwa tunachukua hatua moja mbele alafu hatua tatu nyuma. Tutafikia kule tunakwenda lini? Naomba umakinike kutoa maoni yako. TikTok sijaona maoni yenu, sijui kuna nini. Naomba tafadhali tumakinike kukaribishana. Nakumbuka kwa YouTube kuna ile poll question kama Kenya ikate uhusiano wa kidiplomasia na nchi zote ambazo zinatishia haki za Wakenya wakiwa katika hizo nchi za kigeni. Wewe unaonaje? Wakate ama waendelee kuzungumza ama watafute namna nyingine? Maoni yako hayo na yakaribisha. So on that note, I want us to look into that story of churches and Madam Suluhu and how she's going about dissenting voices. But what is going on in Tanzania is something interesting that we all need to look at. We have viewed and we have been taken to believe that Tanzania ni mahali pa amani, watu wa upendo, watu wa ujamaa, watu ambao hawezi kukosea mtu mwingine. Hasi tunapenda amani, tunapendana, tuna umoja, hakuna anayesimama kinyume na mwingine. Kumbe hapo chini kwa huo uondo wote ambao tunapewa kuna maovu ambayo yanafunikwa. Mungu saidia. Haya, asante, songe mbele. Asante sana, nilete hiyo video ya huyo askofu kafungiwa makanisa kwa kuzungumza na kuuliza watu wanapotea kwa nini. Let's listen to this.
Tanzania's President Samia Suluhu Hassan is under fire after her government deregistered one of the country's biggest Pentecostal churches. Glory of Christ Church, or Ufufuo na Uzima, and its over 2,000 branches have been shut down. Its founder, Kawe MP and Bishop Josephat Gwajima, has been openly condemning enforced disappearances. The government says his sermons are inciting the public against the state and threatening national stability. As Willie Lusige reports, Gwajima remains defiant and pressure is mounting on Mama Suluhu.
Watu wanapotea sana. Na hatujui sasa nani anayefuata kwenye kupotea. Hatujui nani atakayeuawa baadaye.
A strong warning from the pulpit in one of many fiery sermons by outspoken Kawe Member of Parliament and founder of Glory of Christ Church, Josephat Gwajima, in the heart of Dar es Salaam.
Mimi nitalisimamia mpaka mwisho.
For months, Gwajima has used his altar as a political platform, decrying abductions and disappearances of government critics. He claims more than 80 people have either gone missing or been found dead, a dark record that Tanzania hasn't seen in decades.
Chama cha Mapinduzi, ambacho wahasisi wake ni Mwalimu Julius Kambarage Nyerere, akiwemo John Pombe Magufuli na viongozi wengine wote, hawa wote hawajaasisi chama cha kuteka watu. Na CCM sisi si watekaji, na anayeteka watu anateka kwa nia yake yeye mwenyewe.
It is a message that clearly rattled Mama Suluhu's government. On Sunday, in a swift move, the Ministry of Home Affairs revoked the church's registration, accusing Gwajima of using politically charged sermons to incite citizens against the state. By Sunday evening, the church was shut down, forcing thousands of faithful to pray on the streets. Tension flared overnight as armed police sealed off the premises, fired tear gas and arrested defiant worshippers. Stones flew and tear gas filled the air. But the embattled bishop and member of parliament won't back down. He declared 7 days of prayers in more than 2,000 church branches while hurling fresh jabs at President Suluhu.
Kwa jeshi la polisi na wasaidizi wake wote walio chini yake hawa kimsingi huwa wanateuliwa na Mheshimiwa Rais. Nini kimetokea? Hawa watekaji wanateka watu, hawapatikani.
Udugu kuponya ulimwengu, ninyi nyote ni.
The Secretary General of Tanzania Catholic Church Episcopal Conference, Father Dr. Charles Kitima, led a Thanksgiving Mass after surviving a brutal attack by unknown assailants left for the dead at his parish in Dar es Salaam last month.
People are abducted and everybody is silenced. Silence means granting access to evil. Silence means comfortable. Silence means go ahead. I refuse to be silenced.
The opposition is now demanding President Suluhu to carry the weight of these unanswered questions. Willy Lusige, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Sitayumba, sitabadilika, sitapunguza msimamo, tasimama nalo.
Haya, msimamo wake askofu hapo akisema yeye hakuna kurudi nyuma. Watu waseme wamepeleka wapi wale watu ambao wamepoteza. Serikali ambayo haiwezi kulinda wananchi haifai kuitwa serikali. Na haya mambo yote yanatokana na nini? Mtu kutafuta second term. Masuala ya one term imeleta kizaazaa mpaka Tanzania. Yaani mimi ndio nashindwa na uongozi wa Afrika. Mtu huenda kwa ofisi kutafuta tamu nyingine, ama huenda kwa ofisi kuhakikisha kwamba anatekeleza wajibu wake kama kwa mujibu wa sheria na katiba. Wewe performance hujaperform vizuri. Kushikilia nchi hujashikilia vizuri. Uchumi umekataa. Matibabu ndio hayo. Masomo ndio hayo. So mambo kama hayaendi ipasavyo. Mbona tena usisitize kwamba unataka kuendelea kuwa kiongozi? Ikikushinda kung'atuka inakuumiza vipi? Wewe umewekwa kwa ofisi ili utekeleze wajibu. Huo wajibu umekushinda. So itakuwa kupiga watu na kuwateka nyara na kuwaua. Hiyo sasa ndio itakuhifadhi. Kwa hiyo kitu itakupatia uwezo wa sasa kufanya yale ambayo unapaswa kufanya. As the African continent, we must think again. Leadership is responsibility, and responsibility calls on every one of us to see to it that we do the right thing, and the right thing is to safeguard each and every individual. So the disappearance of people in Kenya is wrong. The disappearance of people in Tanzania is wrong. The disappearance of people in Uganda is wrong. Every leadership is supposed to safeguard the welfare of everybody. And if somebody does not agree with you, find a way of getting them on board. Stop torturing people. And we read for you the law of torture here yesterday. That law was enacted in 1984. As you know, 84, that's long time ago. Okay, it was enacted, and then it came into force in 1987. And so nobody should be violating that in the name that he doesn't know. If the law has been around that long, everybody needs to be aware of the same. So why are we still retaining torture as a means of correcting or demonstrating our power when it is outrightly against the international law that is clearly stipulated? And so as a people, something must happen to us. And East Africa seem to be playing in the hands of those that want to destroy it by reason of them ignoring the law and choosing to do what they shouldn't do in the name that that's the way they need to preserve themselves in power. And like I said, nobody should preserve themselves in power, especially when they are not delivering what they need to deliver. Your number one responsibility as a president and as a leader of the country is to better the country, to improve the country. And improving the country means improving the livelihood of the people, improving the life of the people, making sure that life becomes easier, profitable, and progressive for each and every citizen. Not for the ruling class, not for the elites, not for the chosen few. It has to be everybody. So if you cannot manage that, then you disqualify yourself. And there's nothing wrong with disqualifying yourself. And African leaders need to embrace this. When the office is too much for you, leave. We have witnessed in Britain how many prime ministers, 4 prime ministers stepped down because the work they were given is too much. So what do? They resign and another person takes over. So this issue of somebody sticking in office, want to fight, to kill, to abduct people because he has to remain in office, is uncalled for. It's uncalled for. It's backward, it's primitive, it's barbaric. It should not be happening. Not at this time. And so let's all sober up and do the right thing. Let's do the right thing. Najua hapo kwa comment mtaanza kunambia siasa sio kanisa. Nakubaliana na wewe, siasa sio kanisa. Lakini maisha ya mtu yeyote, maisha ya mwananchi ni muhimu kwa kila mtu. Na inapaswa kuwa muhimu kwa serikali. Na sababu ya kuwa serikali ni kulinda maisha, sio kuangamiza maisha. So tumie mamlaka ambayo umepewa kwa kuhujumu haki za watu na kuharibu maendeleo ya wengi. Na kuomba tu, kumbuka kile ambacho umeitiwa ukakitekeleze ipasavyo. So ili swala la huyu askofu na kufungiwa makanisa kwa sababu ameuliza wale watu wamepotea, that is not it. Hakuna hiyo, hata kama nini siwezi kusupport. Produce wale watu wamepotea. Kama huwezi produce, sema walienda wapi. Na hili swala la serikali kuwa na serikali 3 kwa moja, okay? Ili genge, wacha niseme haya wazi kwa sababu wengi wetu hatuelewi, okay? Katika serikali nyingi haswa za Afrika kuna kuwa na ile polisi ya halali, na alafu kuna hii polisi nyingine inaitwanga ya kulinda urais, okay? Hii ya kulinda urais haifanyi kazi kutokana na ile mtaratara wa command chain ya polisi, okay? Hawa naambiwa wanafanya kazi kwa ofisi ya rais na command yao inatoka kwa ofisi ya rais, na kazi yao ya kwanza ni kulinda urais. Kulinda urais ni kulinda huyo mtu ambaye ako kwa ofisi, awe mbaya awe nini. Hao kazi yao ni kuhakikisha kwamba wanalinda huyo mtu asifanye nini, asipoteze hiyo ofisi. So kwao ni kwenda kunusanusa hapa, nani amesema nini kinyume na rais akamatwe, nani huyu ambaye anasimama kinyume na rais afinywe, nani huyu ambaye amekwenda kinyume na yale mipango ya rais huyu afanye nini, akamatwe. Now that parallel police arrangement is the unmaking of our society, and of course an indictment to what we are calling democracy. Because if you are indeed democratic, you must let the voices of those that don't find your leadership impressing to say so. Yes. And if you can't, stand that, then the office is too big for you. Leave the office. Let someone else come in and you'll be able to manage the situation. Maybe it's not the best example, but I should give you the example of Uhuru Kenyatta. When Uhuru Kenyatta and social media couldn't cope, he left social media. He deactivated his account because the account was coming on fire by reason of what Kenyans were saying. So it's okay to leave office because the office is too big for you or the heat is too much. So let's not go back to the barbaric, primitive way of doing things simply because we want to preserve somebody in office. No president, no leader should be retained in office except their performance is outstanding and we want to add them a reward of the second term because their first term has been outstanding. They have solved what was hard to be solved and they have been able to improve the lifestyle of the people. If they have not done that, let them be on their next flight out of office as soon as yesterday. If you have not performed well, don't stay. Don't overstay. Don't insist to stay. Wewe tukikutuma jikoni utengeneze chakula unakuja na mashakura. Ndio inaitwa mashakura. Alafu tukisema basi hata mpishi mwingine aingie kwa jikoni unasema siwezi ruhusu. Mimi nimepakwa mafuta kukaa. Hapana. Kama umepakwa mafuta kutupatia mashakura, sisi hatutakubali. Tunahitaji chakula ambacho kimetengenezwa sawa sawa. So urais hivyo hivyo, ubunge hivyo hivyo, ugavana hivyo hivyo, useneta hivyo hivyo. Kama hujafanya kazi yako vizuri na wananchi wameridhika na kazi yako, basi hakuna second term. Hivyo tu. Ndio hivyo. Si tulienda shule wakati shule ilikuwa shule. Usipofikisha ile max inahitajika, unaandikiwanga repeat. Hawakagui miaka yako ni ngapi. Nilikuwa class moja na watu wako na ndevu lakini wamebaki class 1. Kwa nini? They have not made the marks that makes them to go to class 2. So kama wewe hujafanya kazi yako vizuri kama mbunge, senator, governor, president, funga virago, nenda nyumbani. Wacha kutusumbua na kutumia nguvu inaitwa nini? Ya dola kuangamiza maisha ya watu ambao wameuliza maswali kuhusu uongozi wako. That's not the essence of leadership. Leadership needs to be fair. Leadership needs to be considerate. Leadership needs to be forthright and, of course, forecasting. Being able to tell in 10 years' time, we'll have this and this. Therefore, we need to have this in place. All this time and age, the age of innovation, we're in the age of information. And then you are still using the barbaric, traditional, primitive way of torturing people, that you are teaching them a lesson. What kind of a teacher are you? Well, wacha nisiharibu kila kitu. Naomba tafadhali tumakinike kukaribishana. Hii namba ya watazamaji mbona imekwama hapa? Kila mtu ameenda kulala. Basi tutafungasha. Naomba tafadhali karibisha mtu ili tumakinike kwa pamoja. Tunapochukua break kidogo tu, tukirejea tutakuwa tunaangazia ile suala la hela ya wanaostaafu ambayo haionekani. Kwa mujibu wa Auditor General, hapa Willy Matilo anasema Samia has a game plan. Tundu Lissu is in prison. The case will drag on. She can do away with the Christian voters. There is no strong candidate to challenge her. Okay, Willy Matilo anasema hivyo. Anaona kwamba Samia ana mpango wa kusidisha ama kufanya kesi ya Tundu Lissu iendelee bila kukoma, na mpaka wakati wa uchaguzi ufike na upite bila hiyo kesi kumalizika, ili Tundu Lissu asiwe kwa ballot. Na hata hivyo basi, asipopata kura ya Wakristo, bado atapata kura za kutosha kumfanya rais kwa muhula wa pili. Hayo mawazo ya Willy Matilo. Na ningependa tu labda nilete hii katika ile katiba ya Kongwe ile ambayo tulikataa kabla 2010, masuala ya urais. Sababu moja ya kwamba watu walikataa kwenda kotini wakati uchaguzi umefanywa kwa njia isiyo ya haki. Mojawapo ya sababu ilikuwa kwamba katika hiyo katiba kusikiliza kesi ya kuchallenge elections ilikuwa milele. Okay? So unaweza pereka kuna challenge kwamba huyu rais hakupata kura za kutosha, ako kwa ofisi ipasavyo, wakati ako sworn in ndio hivyo. Hiyo kesi itakuwa inaahirishwa mpaka miaka 5 imalizike. Ndiposa katika 2010 constitution wakaweka hizo siku 14. Okay, kesi isikikwe na imalizike within those 14 days. Although the judicial the judiciary has not given us the benefits of those 14 days. They have not given us the reason for those 14 days. And that to me is a very huge letdown, because if we can't get the right president and we allow evil to thrive and take charge of the country, all the participants are guilty, and they are the reason why the country is what it is today. And so if you are given any responsibility, especially as a judge or as Chief Justice, whatever it is that you call yourself, please take that work serious. Remember, it's the country you're protecting. It's not a political party. It's not an individual. The 50+ million of us, we are the ones on that ballot. Yes, how we will go about life for 5 years is that outcome of those ballot. So ukikaa hapo, Mama Selina hapa anasema miungu 7. Mnakaa hapo mmevaa kanzu, mnakaa kana kwamba mnasikiliza, kumbe hamsikii chochote. Nyinyi mnaona tu mfanye vile mmeambiwa. Kama kuna kitu ambacho kimevunja mioyo ya wengi wa Kenya, mimi nikiwemo, ni hao miungu 7. Wanakaa kana kwamba wanasikiliza, wanakaa kana kwamba wanaelewa inchi, kumbe hakuna. Wanafikiria wako hapo kuweka rubber stamp tu ya chief kupitisha mambo. So kama sheria ya Tanzania na inayohusu haya masuala itakuwa hivi kwamba hiyo kesi iahirishwe na isongeshwe mbele mpaka uchaguzi ufike ili Tundu Lissu asiwe kwa ballot, it will be very disappointing. To be very, very disappointing. And I think as Africans, we have to improve on this. We have to work on this. We need to allow our election process to give us credible leaders. And the election process should determine the outcome, who becomes a leader and who does not become a leader. Any form of interference, any form of trying to rig yourself into office should not be encouraged by anyone. Now, we know that democracy is not the best system of leadership, but it may not even be tailored on how to solve our home African issues. But with its defects, with its faults, it is said it's still the best that there is. And so let's allow it to work, not hamper it, not, throw, stumbling blocks on its way. So naambiwa Tanzania CCM yenyewe nani ndio hii ni kwa mujibu wa anaitwa nani, Munishi. Si mnajua Munishi, mwimbaji wa nyimbo za Injili ambaye ni Mkenya kuliko Mtanzania. Ameishi Kenya siku zote. Alikuwa anasema katika katiba ya CCM, hata ukiwa rais hauna pass, inaitwa ni direct pass ya kugombea urais mpaka kusitokee mtu yeyote katika hiyo chama atakayetaka kuwa rais. Na kama watu watajitokeza kwamba wanataka kuwa rais, wote pamoja na yule ambaye ni rais wawekwe kwa mchujo, wafanyiwe nomination. Yule atakayeshinda ndiye anapewa ticket. So inasemekana Mama Suluhu na of course wale ambao wanamsupport wameenda wakafanya nini? Wakabadilisha hiyo sheria tena ili Suluhu asipelekwe kwa mchujo. So Suluhu ni kama anaogopa uchaguzi, hataki kwenda nomination, anatoa wale ambao wanataka kumchallenge. Hivi tena uchaguzi ndio huo lazima uwepo, anataka kutoa wote wa opposition ili awe peke yake, asiwe na mpinzani. Alafu tunaenda kwa election. Tunaenda kwa election gani? Kama ni hivyo basi hakuna haja ya kusumbua watu eti wanaenda kupiga kura. Kama kura haichagui kati ya huyu na yule, hakuna haja ya kwenda kwa hiyo basi. So tukubali, kama masuala CCM imekubali kwamba Mama Suluhu aendelee, na nchi nzima imekubali, hakuna uchaguzi, aendelee. Lakini masuala ya watu kupotea, watu kuangamizwa, watu kuhujumiwa kwa sababu tu eti mtu anapaswa kukaa kwa ofisi, no way. We can do better than that, and we deserve better than that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I can see Reverend Lala is here. Reverend Lala, we are taking a short break. When we come back, you weigh on these stories. Thank you so much for coming here. Labda the best break ni hii.
Ile maneno ambayo ilitokea huko bungeni jana wakati MP ambaye amechaguliwa juzi wa Kiambaa Njuguna Kawanjiko alisimama kuongea na ulimi yake ikakwama, akashindwa kutranslate mawazo kutoka kwa akili ailete kwa mdomo itoke, awekelee agenda za watu wa Kiambaa on the floor of parliament. It was an embarrassing moment for the community and should serve as a wake-up call kwa Wakikuyu. Wakikuyu lazima wajiulize, huko ukienda huko kwa Luo Nyanza, utapata mbunge kama Kawanjiko ambaye hawezi kuongea? Ukienda Western kwa Luhya, utapata mbunge kama Kawanjiko ambaye hawezi kuongea? Ukienda huko Northeastern kwa Wasomali, utapata kweli mbunge kama Kawanjiko ambaye hawezi kuongea? Hata Turkana mwisho ya Kenya, they do not elect ignoramuses. Lakini hapa kwetu mlimani, hapa ndio Ruto anataka kuja kuimpose ignorant people kama Kawanjiko as our leaders. Hapa mlimani ndio Sonko alikuja akatuwekea governor Waitito. Wakati Pokot wanachagua Professor Onyangapuo, mtu ambaye amesoma, mawazo yake imefunuka, ametembea dunia, ameona modern world. Pokot wanachagua Onyangapuo na Pokot ni huko kichakani. Sisi hapa Kiambu, county ambayo iko na very big economic potential, tunachagua Waitito. Ruto is imposing this kind of leaders on Mount Kenya. Unasikia amesema hapo Kirinyaga weka nani, weka Gireshe ambaye tunajua makaratasi yake hakuna. Unakuja Nyandarua weka Faith Getau, who has no history of stepping inside the tertiary institution. Ruto anataka kuja kutufinyiria hapa, tuweke viongozi ambao they cannot articulate agenda ya community kuendelea mbele, na hivyo ndivyo Wakikuyu watamalizwa. Ruto anataka kumaliza kwanza, amalize uongozi yetu, alafu sasa kuja tutandike kabisa vile moja alituwekea kina Dickson Kihika Kimani na Kariuki Chotara, ati ndio wa viongozi wa Kikuyu, na mwishowe akatufinya economically, and our community was on the verge of extinction. Lazima tujichunge sana na tukatae hiyo maneno ya Ruto kuja kuimpose viongozi hapa kwetu.
But the unthinkable happened. Police opened fire on unarmed demonstrators, killing over 20, injuring many, and leaving others unaccounted for. Frank was among the victims, hit by 6 bullets, yet by God's grace, he survived. After a series of life-saving surgeries, Frank can now walk again. But the bullets left a lasting impact. He can no longer perform heavy-duty jobs to support his grandmother. In their iron sheet home, deep in the slum, is inaccessible by vehicles. In case of a medical emergency, help is far out of reach. To make matters worse, the slum is plagued by insecurity, with daily cases of muggings and robberies. Despite all these challenges, Frank dreams of finishing his education, learning a trade, and building a better life for his grandmother, the woman who has stood by him through every storm. This is where we need your help. In the short term, we aim to move Frank and his grandmother to a safer home where they can access medical care and live without constant fear. Long term, we want to support Frank in completing his education, learning a profitable skill, and starting a small business. I've faced so much, but I'm still standing. I want to work hard, take care of my grandmother, and make her proud. I just need a chance. You can be the change in Frank's life. Every contribution, big or small, will go a long way in helping this brave young man and his grandmother rebuild their lives. Let's come together and help Frank fulfill his God-given destiny. God bless you. Send your donations to Sound Candid Talk Support Frank Okoth account. The link is in the description below. Together, we can make a difference. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share this video widely, and stay tuned for more inspiring stories on Sound Candid Talk.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for staying tuned. We appreciate everyone for keeping us company and then, of course, participating into the show. We want to hear what you think and feel about this entire scenario, even as we remind you to ensure that you are a fully participant. Respond to our poll question, respond to liking, giving the video a thumbs up is important. And then, of course, subscribe if you have not subscribed. Share widely the video, and then of course follow us, those of you following us on TikTok. Likes za TikTok zimekwama mahali, naomba usikwamue unapotupata tafadhali. Let's like the video, let's share the live, get more people to join and be part of this great conversation. Moja kwa moja nimlete Reverend Lala. Lala, vipi leo?
Mchungaji Bernard, vyema kabisa, habari ya tangu jana.
Salama, tunashukuru. Mungu mwema, karibu.
Nashukuru Bwana. Na wenzangu ambao wako wanasikilizaji wote, amjambo. Bernard, I think let me speak in English. Yeah. I think I wanted to say this to my fellow Kenyan East Africans, especially those in this channel. First of all, kujeni jamani. I haven't seen a number of you. You are out there, and this is the time that you need it the most. An election is coming. That's when you know some big news comes. Then you come in, which concerns you. I think this is the time for all of us to raise our voices, because I think we are more threatened, because this is how they practice what they're going to do in the election time. When people are disappearing, when torture is going on, it's actually will desensitize us. Next time something happens, we don't have these outcries. Our voices are muzzled. So it is important for us to raise our voices, come to these places like this channel. Even if you don't want to come here, go to another one. But I pray and I hope that all of you will come in here. And my point today is this, that Africa was very democratic before what we call civilization itself is so-called the Western type of democracy. What do I mean by that? First of all, when we talk about democracy and human rights, we are talking about the value of a human life, the value of life. Things that Mwafrika alikuwa naogopa sana, to shed blood. You may do different things, but shedding blood was a taboo. In fact, it's a curse. Most of our African tribal traditions, if you kill, a lot of ritual had to be done. Some places you are kicked out of the community. You're not part of it. So what will walikuwa naogopa damu sana sana sana. But what we see now is totally a different thing altogether. The more tunawacha mila zetu, the more undemocratic we become, the more we don't value human life, the more things get harder, and the more we lose a sense of that Ubuntu community idea of us as a people. And the more we go down. So it is important for us to know who we are, because when we know who we are, then there's a big word we can contextualize democracy to our culture, so that all voices are heard within the culture. So first of all, East Africa is the same. The region, we are all brothers and sisters. We have similar cultures. The tribal affiliations are everywhere. This is one community. And so when we see things like this abduction, going on, and what happened to this two brilliant, innocent young people in Tanzania, then all of us must be enraged. In fact, Suluhu and others must and should have come forth to get these criminals, arrest them. The sad thing is that why Mama Suluhu is responsible directly is that from day one, instead of stepping back, weighing, listening, trying to understand, she already made political statements which may have inspired these people by declaring that these people have come to, there are problems out there and we want to protect Tanzania from them. It's already them. When you do that, what you're doing is you are immunizing, your people. You are basically telling Tanzanians, those are our enemies. They are not our brothers, they're not our sisters, not our community. They're our enemies. So when they're doing what they're doing, it's almost like they have got an okay from the leader. So Mama Suluhu, even if she didn't know, she played a part, and she must take the full responsibility, apologize, and get these people prosecuted. I think that's the best way for us to build back this trust that has been there for a long time. And secondly, for all of us, sisi kama wa Kenya ambao tuko hapa, I think let's not just throw the baby in the bathwater. Let's not just take things holistic. Let's analyze things. Let's see what is really going on. I believe there are a lot of Tanzanians who feel the way we do. They are trapped in there. And unless we identify with them, then we will be actually losing this war, because all we are saying is Kenya against Tanzanian, when actually that's not the issue. The issue is criminality, dictatorship, violence, corruption. Those are the issues that we need to be talking about, not Tanzanians against Kenyans, jamming, the waves and airwave with some of this, cheap stuff that we talk about. Let's be specific, let's be surgical. Let us strike where the enemy is, and that is those what I've shared. That it is bad people, corrupt people, dictators that are creating all this enmity between us. So I would encourage Tanzania wajitokeze ili to demand, what Nyerere, their leader, who was a great man, wanted his nation to follow, because this is actually a shift from what we knew about Tanzania. Okay, so let's all of us put our voices together, come out, see Zote. Let's Bernard should be having 100 people actually trying to get in, not few of us. Okay, so let's all step out. That's the only way to fight this war. It is all our voices being heard. In other words, we don't want crime in our neighborhood, just the same way we don't want it in Tanzania. Any of our people going to Tanzania, any of Tanzanians coming to Kenya, okay? Protect them as our brothers and sisters. Uganda, the same thing. Let us be each other's keeper. That is the only way to even value what we talk about democracy, because we may be talking about democracy, but we don't even know what it is. We are really part of the problem if we are all we're talking about is anger and rage and not tearing people down. We have to see the good, the beautiful, the oneness, undugu. Let the good, let truth be highlighted. And whenever there's light, darkness will begin to disappear. So let us uphold our brothers and sisters in our prayers and stand with them, okay? And denounce the evil that has been done on the life of these people. And we know it's going on in Uganda, we know it's going on in Kenya, we know it's going on in Tanzania. Must point to the problem, or else we are throwing the baby on the bathwater, and that is not the right way to go. So Bernard, mimi naamiza tu watu wetu wajitokeze. Let every voice be heard. Kila mmoja wetu tuzungumze. That's how the world will respect us, even outside world. That's how business will thrive, because people will trust us. That's how we will do well. Or else what we are doing now is we are all divided, small little counties, little states. And so somebody who will benefit is one who is bigger and larger, is always the Western world. They come and take our resources, everything around us. They decide how we sell, what we don't sell. So we are basically slaves unless we work together as a team. So these are calling a time for all of us to really think and really look at where we are as a people. And we're just East Africans. The rest of the world see us as people at the bottom, and they will not lift us up. It is us who's going to do it on our own, okay, by ourselves. And so let us hold each other's hand, stand together, and denounce evil and lift our people up. It can be done if these people know where they belong and know their place. So back to you, Bernard. Just wanted to my opening statement, Asante.
Thank you, Lala. We appreciate that. And that appeal reaches out to you. Come forth. If you have anything you want to share with the rest of the world, please come forth and speak up before time begins to fail us. But it's important that we pull together. I know Kenyans, we are last-minute people, but I think we need to take lessons earlier and be able to address these issues in good time. We have that culture of waiting when it is the last day is when everybody comes out. And so if we don't come out early and be able to begin to demand these realities, we will be caught unawares again. And that's something that I wouldn't want to happen under our watch. We can't be here all this time and then at the 11th hour, we are found unprepared again, and we are forced into an election that we are not ready for, or, put again and wherever government in office that is not a reflection of the Kenyan people or the Kenyan will, as well as people that can cater for the welfare of the rest of Kenyans. And so I would just emphasize that. Let's come forth, let's speak up, let's do anything we can do in whatever space we find ourselves. Let it be positive, let it be healthy, and let it be for a better Kenya. Remember, we're here for Kenya, for all Kenyans. The only Kenya that will work, the only Africa that will work, the only world that will work is where everybody's catered for as an important person, not having a few people to enjoy, the rest to suffer. That has failed. We're celebrating 62 years of independence, and in some places, they have nothing to celebrate. So let's come around, let's be able to speak up and do the necessary. Let me quickly bring in this video first, and then we can begin to see what next. This is Auditor General revelations on the issue of NSS.
The National Social Security Fund has been on the receiving end over its continued delays in making public its financial report. despite continuously receiving funds from Kenyan workers, a situation that took the intervention of the Commission on Administrative Justice, or the Office of the Ombudsman, for the NSSF to publish their financial performance for the period ending June 30th, 2024. Jimmy Mbogo now takes us through the findings of the Auditor General's reports, which indicate significant financial impropriety at the cost of those who hoped for a secure retirement.
The latest financial report by the National Social Security Fund for the financial year ending June 2024 has exposed significant financial misappropriation at the institution. According to excerpts from the Office of the Auditor General on the NSSF financial health, the institution failed to show progress in the refund of taxes totaling to 904,336,114 shillings, which were inadvertently paid to the Kenya Revenue Authority and were to be refunded after the fund became tax exempt. This costing retirees interest had the funds been invested. Further, the report shows that NSSF acquired a piece of land in Nairobi's Upper Hill area at a cost of 115 million shillings, but the parcel of land title deed was revoked in April 2010 on grounds that the parcel was reserved for public use. In what appeared to be a run of bad investment decision, the Auditor General found that NSSF had invested in two companies between 2023 and 2024. The company's values tanked by 17.64%, costing members a total of 27,218,265 from a valuation of 157,294,756 in 2023 to 127,076,491 shillings by 2024. The Auditor General noting that the value for money from the two companies could not be confirmed. A situation that is also replicated in the NSSF shareholding in the investment in a loss-making bank, where the institution holds shares valued at 38,428,500 shillings and worsened by the investment in government securities, where the fund spent 12 billion shillings to purchase bonds 500,711,695 shillings premium without satisfactory explanation. The audit shows that bonds were bought at a premium cost and sold at a loss, with the years under review booking a capital loss of 272,045,067. The audit report shows that the fund is sitting on 5 idle properties within Nairobi CBD valued at 4.02 billion shillings. But despite the demonstrably questionable investment acumen, outright investment that ought to rake in funds for NSSF also struggled to do so in the period under review, with a report showing that in the period under review, documents provided to the Auditor General shows that 8 tenants owed the fund a total of 13 million shillings, 973,012 shillings in rent arrears and had obtained a court injunction. To further add salt to the wound, the fund went on to spend 317 million shillings, 586,319 on travel, conferences and meetings, out of which 11,312,400 shillings was spent on conferences. Of concern, however, is that the facilities were procured through a request for quotation from non-registered suppliers. The fund went on to spend 51 million shillings, 26,216 on motor vehicle running expenditure, with fuel accounting for 3.2 million shillings. In the same period under review, NSSF spent a total of 410 million shillings, 888,300 on renovation, out of which 14,438,945 was spent on renovation works procured through requests for quotation, and an additional 36,340,392 shillings was spent towards the acquisition of property, plants and equipment. An additional 2 million was spent to acquire a reception desk. In the period under review, NSSF also failed to meet its membership target of 650,000, only registering 556,300 new members, leaving a gap of 93,696, an equivalent of 14% underperformance. The Board of Trustees did not leave empty-handed either, with a report indicating that a whopping 68 million shillings, 782,807 shillings was spent as as trustee emolument out of the 6.9 billion shillings administrative cost. Jamie Mbogo, Citizen TV, Nairobi.
Okay, welcome back ladies and gentlemen. Hali ndivyo ilivyo katika masuala ya hela za malipo ya uzeeni. Reverend Lala, there you go.
Bernard, you know, when you listen to such statements, you know, such happenings in our system, then you wonder who is there to oversight the spending, who is there to audit, and what consequences are there for doing things like this. And it seems to me that this has been cash cow over the years, and they basically some of these so-called audit and presentations means nothing. It is nothing. Nothing will happen. We hear this all the time, and that's the danger. In other words, these people have done a good job to expose the corruption and the looting of public funds, money that should be helping workers. And clearly, this is truly sad. The amount of looting, the amount of misappropriation is beyond me. Really beyond me. For somebody to still work there without answering this question is beyond me. I guess that is Kenya. That's Kenya we have. And going back to democracy, democracy is pegged on accountability, on proper use of public resources for the good of all of us. In the traditional African tradition, there was spirit. There were people afraid of what would happen if you steal from Ayatima, those who don't have anything. The curse will be on you. People were afraid, and they did the right thing. That land was a public, land for all the people. There were spirits there, the dead uncles and others who are there who actually watch over you. What has happened? The people don't believe in any of that anymore. It's about money. Get it any way necessary. So they don't care. They are actually. I was talking to one of the deans, and in the school, one of the top people in Kenya's university system, and he was telling me that most students want to go to the procurement. That's the area where everybody wants to get a degree in, the procurement, and you know exactly what we're talking about here. The place where they can be able to put their hand into the treasury and eat and vomit on their shoes. And to me, exactly, that report is damaging. That report is sad. But at the end of the day, nothing will be done. And this is why all the voices should be out here. They should be hearing us, just like the Gen Zs made them listen, able to help them, make them listen to us. It's us who will do it. If you stay out there and watching and listening and telling yourself, nothing's going to happen. But if you come out to a platform like this one and raise your voice, I'm telling you, something can happen. So it's a high time we, do what our forefathers did. They fought for where they are. They had to come and fight for the land, okay? And they protected it. Every home had a shield and a spear, okay, to protect. In other words, defense was on every home, okay. Hose, things like planting and all that was everyone. In other words, no one took any chances. If you didn't do your job, you would not exist. But for we don't seem to care much. We don't even think in terms of how to defend ourselves. We don't think in terms of what to do us. We are waiting for somebody to do something for us. And that's not African. So it is important for us to take this report, step out, and raise our voices and demand answers. We must demand the answers because the justice will not do it, okay? Because they don't. The lawyers are a bunch of hirelings. They do anything, you know, as long as they are paid. The legislative branch, we know exactly where they are. The executive is the chief looters. So it is upon all of us to step out. And so, Bernard, what you are doing is what is saving Kenya. It is channels like this one where we raise our voices. This is what they listen to. So we must do it. So to me, kusikiza these people, you know, what they're doing, and then at the end of the day, nothing is done, is the saddest thing. Because we know children will die, get to the hospital. We know some will not go to school because there is no money. We know jobs will not be there. There's no money. And look at where the money is going. There's some people who should be earning their pension. They've never seen a dime, a cent or a shilling, okay? And they're waiting, traveling to Nairobi. I don't know if these days are different. Long time ago, they used to go there, and when they get it, it's so much, so little, and they already bribed other people around. So we are waiting for our own funeral if we don't step out. That's exactly what we are doing. If we don't step out, they will not do it. We gotta do it and step out and step forward and let's be counted and let them know that we know what they are doing, so that these thieves can be prosecuted. The same, whatever we are asking to be done to those Tanzanians, you know, who have done this too. Let's ask for the same for our own people that are stealing from us. They're killing our community. They're killing our economies. They're destroying what our forefathers built. Because you, Bernard, you and I, if you went to the village those days, if you live in town, or if you're part of that village, we had granaries. Granaries had millet, had corn, had wimbi, all the things likuwa ndani huko. Okay, when other people are did not do very well, you know, the crop did not do well, we shared with them. Okay, I remember if you know, food to Ethiopia. Okay, we had enough. What has happened? People live from, you know, hand to mouth. There is nothing called a granary in most homes. Nothing. They're waiting each day. The ones that become beggars during elections. So these are the factors that are there, and it's happening because we let NSSF and others be raided. And that's that is the saving any nation, whether in the US and others. That is the core of economic, you know, power. It is saving of workers. You know, the NSF, that's where that's the money that stabilizes the economy. Okay, because that's the investment done well is always a stabilizing factor. You know, stabilizing factor. And so for it to be rated like this, it shows we are a banana republic. Nothing, you know, we are in a bad shape. So that's my comment on that particular report.
Exactly, Reverend Lala. We appreciate that. And sad indeed that we are playing with everything and anything that we put our sights on. NSSF or NHF, those are services that are supposed to be guarded and protected by the powers that be. If there is anything that must not go wrong, should be in this particular fraternity. And is it now our culture that we appoint and put boards and people presiding over those boards that are incompetent deliberately, so that we can end up with this kind of losses? Because what we see here is almost the premeditated crimes that are being deliberately done so that this money gets into wrong hands. You buy land, you claim that land is now public land, you invest in these bonds and the bonds don't make the profit and all that. That doesn't happen with private businesses. in this magnitude. And so it appears to me that Kenya needs to walk away from this culture of incompetence and playing around with public assets. Okay, public assets. Kitu ikiandikwa tu GK ama ni cha serikali, watu hawatilii maanani wanapokishughulikia.
Bernard, I'm also very suspicious of these places they invest this money. Who own those businesses? And that's a way of looting. Primarily, you know where you're investing. You know you are the, the beneficiary of that. And so when the business does do well, you really taken your money. So it is a way of looting, really, when you think about it. You know the thing is going to go down. What do? You go in there and invest, knowing that you are part of the owners of those businesses. You have shares in those businesses. And so I think these are things that need to be investigated, okay? Because this is how most third world countries go down, because the buyer and the seller are the same person, okay? And now with government money is simply, just like, I think there was a time that government was disposing some of the properties, and who are the buyers? The same guys in the government. So they tell you the price is low, and then they, buy them, and then they make a kill out of them. And we know that a lot of houses in Nairobi were acquired, fraudulently with some people that were in the government, to make money. Inside trading, basically, they know exactly what they're going to make out of it, because it does not make any sense to invest people's money in something that will not benefit, the workers themselves. Who is getting the benefit? It's the people investing. They know exactly what they are doing. Yeah. So it's a sad, very, very bad. Back to you.
Exactly. And I think we more than ever, we need competent leadership from the head to the last person, because such parastatals and such sectors need not to be joked with. That money can be put to good use. And even this issue of government going to borrow in China to do a road and borrow elsewhere, such money can be used into lending to government, and government paying back. Just proper, structured, well organized kind of operations. But if we all look into this, how much can we steal without being caught, and how much can we loot without this? This is lying money. Hii ni pesa imelala hapa, haina kazi. And in the process, now we are creating a crisis. Wazee sasa wapati pension, nini ati hakuna pesa, na pesa iliwekwa. This is something we must address. Quickly, let me bring in this story of the software developers. We close. In case you're coming, wai mapema Masandi, Ohio. Amina Fungashi.
Live from Citizen TV, this is The Explainer with Yvonne Okwara.
Njoki Shege is our sign language interpreter. Tonight, we'd like to begin at the courts, where software developer and activist Rose Njeri was released on a 100,000 shillings bond. Njeri, who built a platform for public feedback on the 2025 finance bill, spent 4 days in custody. The court has set June 20th as the date for a ruling that will determine whether she faces cybercrime charges linked to claims that her app disrupted parliamentary email systems. As Ben Kirui reports, her legal team, led by former Chief Justice David Maraga, has dismissed the charges as baseless and unconstitutional.
After hours of anxious waiting in the courtroom, web developer and activist Rose Njeri was finally presented before Magistrate Geoffrey Onsarigo at noon on Tuesday to face cybercrime-related charges, but Njeri did not take a plea. Her legal team objected to the charges, terming them fabricated and not triable under current law.
Your Honor,
The state accuses Njeri of unauthorized interference with computer systems for developing a web-based platform that allegedly sent mass emails to the National Assembly's Finance Committee. The prosecution claims that the influx of emails disrupted normal operations of parliamentary communication systems.
We are taken aback in terms of how do we respond to this charge when the email address was created specifically to be used by members of the public to send their memorandums either in support or in opposition.
Detectives allege that the platform, developed by Njeri, directed the bulk emails to the official systems of the clerk of the National Assembly. The prosecution argues that this constitutes a violation under the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act.
And the information that is given is that the accused person, the suspect before you, knowingly made a program hosted at that website that automatically generated and sent mass emails. Is there sufficient information to understand what we are alleging you to have done? The answer is easily yes.
Njeri's defense team, led by former Chief Justice David Maraga, dismissed the charges as baseless and unconstitutional. They argued that her actions fell squarely within her rights to freedom of expression and public participation. They pointed out that the email address in question had been publicly designated for citizen feedback on the controversial 2025 finance bill.
Instead of being charged, in our view, she should be applauded for having done the work of Parliament, for the Parliamentary Committee, and the institutions which are there to receive views.
Remember, the suspect, Your Honor, is here because she has responded to a public invitation through the parliamentary website that obviously expects reactions from the members of Parliament. Public, that is therefore to ask, can that be perceived to amount to interference when Parliament has invited the members of the public to react to the finance bill?
Njeri was released on a personal bond of 100,000 Kenya shillings. Following her release, Njeri issued a statement of how she was arrested at her home on Friday and detained at Pangani police station over the weekend.
During the illegal arrest and the intimidation by around 15 men, that's 3 Subarus, versus the lack of crime committed was ridiculous, and I'm happy that you all saw that as the case and reacted as you did.
Earlier in the day, tensions escalated outside the court as security officers clashed with protesters, demanding Njeri's immediate presentation in court. After spending 4 days in police custody, Rose Njeri has been set free, but her legal team has strongly criticized the state for its growing pattern of fabricating charges. The court is set to rule on June 20th on whether Njeri will stand trial on cybercrime allegations. Ben Kiroi, Citizen TV, Milimani Loco.
Okay, ukistaajabu ya Musa utaona ya Firauni. Sasa hii ndio gani tena?
Maajabu, maajabu. Yani, to send 15 policemen to arrest that small girl for doing the right thing. To me, it's like this. These are not governments, these are not institutions worth any credit. There are things that you just don't do. If there's an issue, you can, summon her, in a civilized way, and raise the issue with her, than to send this number of policemen. And psychologically, this is how we beat ourselves as Africans. When we are not respected it's not that people don't want to respect us. At times, we need to respect ourselves. If we don't respect our people, how do we expect people to respect us? And people, a lot of people would want to, many people would want to respect us, but because we dehumanize our own kind, it looks silly. Now look at the whole government is, prosecuting this young woman as a terrorist or a criminal, because that kind of arrest and detention and then all of a sudden the case is read and the case does not make sense to many of us. We don't even know why she was arrested. I mean, it's bad for the African brand. It's very bad. So I don't know whether this colonial mentality still hold over us. And let me challenge the people, even members, our team here. If we don't come to a place like this and share our views, we are actually playing in their league. That's exactly what we are. We are just the same as them. So I think it is critical for us to denounce, such behavior, which is quite barbaric. Okay, they are all better methods, but it seems as if these people don't use their head. They simply a lot of fear, emotions, and that makes them look very silly. And to me, I think that's very silly what they've done to this young woman. And this all call for all of us to step forward and denounce, such behaviors. It's not the way to go. Yeah.
Exactly. And Parliament is supposed to have capacity to. We cannot be 55 million people, and you're doing public participation. Then you put up an email portal that gets overwhelmed by the response of the people. And then you blame it on somebody who created that.
It's bad. It's bad.
It's like when Kibaki announced free primary education, and everybody went to school. So should we arrest a village because it released a lot of children into the school, and the school did not have capacity to receive the children? I mean, this is primitive, and so our country needs to come out of this madness.
It is, and the saddest thing is that I guess it's supposed to be the prosecutor. The government. What's the title? The chief prosecutor for the government. I'm so used to here. The system here. I think for a long time, I think in Kenya, the prosecutors were policemen. They were not legally trained, and it looked like they were doing a better job than these days, where they have more lawyer, leading this prosecution for the government, because you as a lawyer, you was to select, to prosecute such people. It just shows how low we have gone. Where the old policemen who didn't go to school, yet they were more humane in the way they handled legal cases. And I remember my own grandfather was a policeman. Okay, he worked with Nyandusi, was Nyachai's father, and he would be so angry the way the police treats, in our time, people. He said, when I was a policeman, si tunakuwa tunashika mtu na sheria, anaenda naambiwa asiu kupiga watu. These are olden days. In other words, they respected their own. They knew the injustice that wabeberu walikuwa nawekea watu wao. So they go to arrest their own people, and with a lot of respect, because they identified with them. But then now we have a group that, I don't know. Back to you, Bernard.
Okay, thank you, Lala. We appreciate your input, and every other one of us who have made the show a success. We really salute everyone. Please, let's be active in ensuring that we do the right thing. But such things are embarrassing, to say the least. Embarrassing that you take somebody to court for facilitating Kenyans to respond to a question you put in public. This is not it. And so as Kenyans, let's do the right thing. As we close, I want to remind us the month is over and we need to pay bills. Tafadhali, let's respond to this. The details are on your screen. Support us. Use either the till number 516575, Sound Candy Talk, or you can use my M-Pesa line, +2547184545585. Bernard is the name. We really need your support to keep running and keep this conversation going. And then, of course, there are those live shows that we bring during the day. So following Sound Candy Talk, you won't miss anything serious that is taking place within and without the country. And let me also appreciate all that have sent in their support already. We really value and appreciate it. Don't forget, we are also taking care of Frank, and his bills needs to be serviced. So contributions is both for the channel as well as for the support of Frank, who we must take care of until he's able to stand on his own and able to fend for himself. And so I want to encourage us not to forget those responsibilities. Just one person cannot defeat us from taking care of them. So let's work towards that. And then, of course, our bills here are not that much. So tujitahidi kuhakikisha kwamba tunatekeleza wajibu wetu, haswa wale ambao mnaamini katika hii kazi tunayoifanya na mngependa iendelee. Niwashukuru tena na niseme tafadhali tujitahidi, hata kama tumefunga, hakikisha kwamba unaendelea kushare hiyo video na ujumbe ambao tumesema ama masuala ambayo tumeshughulikiwa tumeyazungumzia, ukayafikishe kwa wengi ambao hawakusikiliza. So tukifunga show haimaanishi mambo yameisha, ndio mambo yameanza. So kama tunafunga labda tumekuwa na watu 200, baadaye turudi tupate tumefika 500 kwa sababu umeshare video na umekumbusha ile mtu ambaye angependa kusikia masuala haya na hajajua kule Sound Candy Talk inapatikana, unamsaidia na subscribe, anafuata haya mambo. Tujifunze, tujifahamishe ili tukue na ile hali ya kujua cha kufanya wakati maswali yataanza kutolewa. So please, let's do that. Thank you so much. Let's listen out to this as we call it night a day, wherever you are. God bless you.
Kupata katiba mpya katika mazingira ya amani, mtasubiri sana. Mimi nawaambia na nini kama vijana, nimekuja hapa muongodoke na something hapa. Mtasubiri sana. Naijua dunia, nchi chache sana zimepata katiba bila vita. Hii katiba ya Kenya hii mnayosikia imeandikwa ofisini kwangu na Nairobi. Mimi si ndiye nilikuwa mkuu wa Umoja wa Mataifa pale wakati inaandikwa. Hila hamlijui. Lakini ni baada ya kule Eldoret watu wanauana haraka kuliko hata Interahamwe Rwanda. Ikaonekana tunafanyaje? Hawa watu wanamalizana. Kwa hiyo tukakaa sasa nyuma ya pazia mambo yanavyokwenda. Lakini amendment hata na hawa opposition parties. Nilikuwa nawaambia akina Heche, nilikuwa nao hawa vijana nimekuwa nao bungeni. Nilikuwa nawaambia, have your priorities. Pick the low hanging fruits. Unapofanya kitu usitake kila kitu. Ukitaka kila kitu utapata chochote. Nataka tu kulifafanua hili kwamba sipingi amendments, matatizo yapo. Haya mnayosema yanarekebika by amendment ya katiba. Kwa sababu katiba yetu tulionayo hii mtu yote na rais anaweza kufukuzwa madarakani. Sasa kama mfanyi, huo ni utamaduni. That is culture, and culture is supreme. Hivi ni yani ninyi wenyewe ndio mnajirudi nyuma kwa sababu ya utamaduni wetu. Nilifafanua hili as students, msije mkatoka na misconception. Unaweza ukashindwa essay ukisema kwamba constitutional change is the panacea for good governance. Inaweza ikawa mdahalo unaokuja. Asante.
Tunazunguka kote kote mchana kutwa kukuletea taarifa na matokeo ya habari kutoka pembe zote za ulimwengu. Jioni tunaweka mduara wa kujadili taarifa zizo hizo kwa mapana na marefu. Ungana nasi kila siku ya wiki kwenye matukio ya siku saa 2 jioni kwenye Sound Candid Talk. Matukio ya siku, makao makuu ya habari kuu ya siku. Sound Candid Talk is timely, accurate, professional, and affordable. You have a complaint or a compliment, any question concerning our broadcasting, contact us soundcandidtalk@gmail.com. We are on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and X at Sound Candid Talk. Call us on 0718 45 45 85.
You've dreamed about the perfect wedding, the dress, the vows, the happily ever after. But let's ask the most important question. Before you say I do, are you truly ready for the lifelong commitment that comes after the honeymoon period fades? Bernard Ngozie's groundbreaking ebook, Are You Marriage Ready?, is the ultimate guide to building a successful, lasting marriage. This isn't just another relationship book, it's a heart-to-heart conversation that prepares you for one of life's biggest decisions, getting married. Are you choosing love or just infatuation? Are you building a marriage or just planning a wedding day?
Reading this book was a game changer. I realized I wasn't as ready as I thought, but now I'm on the right path.
Don't wait until it's too late. Invest in your future. Download Are You Marriage Ready today. Link in the description below. Your future spouse deserves the best. Are you ready?
Welcome back, and thank you for staying with KTN Prime. Now, before we dive into a conversation, let's just take a look at what's in store for you in tomorrow's edition of Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard. The headline is State Impunity, Abuse of Power. Rose Njeri, a software developer and civic activist, thought she was using her skills to educate Kenyans on the finance bill and have them register their dissent. In return, a law that targets hackers is being used to prosecute her. Her arrest and arraignment has lawyers and critics up in arms, accusing the state of weaponizing cybercrime laws to silence digital activism and public participation. All eyes are on the judiciary on June 20th to see where hacking starts and dissent stops. We'll be having an in-depth analysis of what exactly transpired and the charge sheet. But also, we'll be talking about matters education. Nancy Macharia exits TSC after 10 years at the helm. What exactly was she able to achieve? And what does it mean now that she's leaving? Will there be a vacuum? And what does that mean for the Teacher Service Commission? All that will be canvassing in tomorrow's edition of The Standard. And of course, sports. And we'll be talking about party launch problems for Gachagua, as it was supposed to be held today, but it did not happen for various reasons. All this will be canvassed, so be sure to grab a copy of The Standard and get informed. Well, let's get into a conversation tonight. And we are joined by Ishmael Nyaribo, an advocate of the High Court. Good evening. It's good to see you.
Thank you, Ashley.
And also Stella Agara, governance and security analyst, is joining us virtually. We'll be having her shortly. But even as we wait for Stella, Ishmael, I mean, it has been quite a long weekend. And I say this in terms of revelations. Everyone is aware of what activist Boniface Mwangi and Agatha Tuhaire yesterday narrated their ordeal. I don't know if I should call it painful ordeal, that has raised so many questions. I mean, I can say they went through hell in Tanzania, but it doesn't seem like the government has a lot to say. Does the mom from government officials concern you as a Kenyan?
Well, you know, Ashley, first and foremost, you know, we have to look at the hero and the heroines of our times and what they have done, what they've suffered, what they've gone through, so that me and you are happier, and me and you are safe. And I think besides all this, the torture, the pain, besides the politics around it and memes and some people thinking it's a field day for them, we must look at this as the hero in Boniface Mwangi and Agatha, the pain. They've done. Why should somebody else suffer my pain? I mean, he is suffering. They are being tortured in Tanzania because the assumption is Kenyans are just coming here to do some mischief. I'm a Kenyan. I did not go down there, and yet somebody has suffered for me. And therefore, I think I really must look at how big the two are and what they did for both the country and democracy in the whole world.
Okay.
But I am not surprised that the government in Kenya is quiet. I am not, because at the prayer breakfast, they actually apologized to Tanzania. If we have offended you, we are sorry. They apologized to our neighbor. Actually, that is the height of impunity and arrogance from the government of Kenya to actually apologize for nothing. I mean, what happened that deserved Kenyan president to apologize to Tanzania? The people of Kenya are not apologetic for visiting our neighbor. There is a whole charter of the East African community that allows us to visit our neighbors. There is not one indication that Martha Karua and the rest of the people went to Tanzania to cause any harm. They did not go to do nothing but to attend a court case. And many others were allowed to attend. So I'm not worried, nor I'm worried, sorry, I'm concerned and worried, but it's not new that the Kenyan government can behave like that. There is an unspoken word, unspoken language between the three heads of states in East Africa.
Okay.
Probably extending to other regions, but these three obviously do not want any dissent or anybody opposing them. What we see in Kenya, the strong opposition from the Gen Z, from the public, is because of the constitution that people made in 2010, where many people already died. I don't think we've seen that in Uganda or in Tanzania. Kenyans died to give themselves a constitution that they cannot accept to be silenced. I think that is why we have this robust kind of democracy. But in terms of leaders who are in office, they are the same, like Suluhu, like President Yoweri Museveni, like our own President William Ruto. They are the same, by the way. They do not wish to be opposed.
Okay.
In the very least, they do not wish to be opposed.
All right, let's now just turn our focus to Stella. Stella, good evening. I hope you can hear me clearly. I mean, from what Njeri Vows has said and from what we heard from Boniface Mwangi, the activist, I mean, there were claims that the captors knew details about him that only a Kenyan would know. Equally says that the Kenyan government knew what was happening because Boniface Mwangi claims that his lawyer received a phone call from the Kenyan ambassador to TZ. Critics are terming the events as a coordinated effort by East African governments to suppress fundamental rights. As you've equally heard from Njeri Vows, he shares the same sentiments. Where do you sit when it comes to this issue? Stella, I don't know if you can hear me, but of course, the entire issue about Boniface Mwangi, critics are terming the events as coordinated efforts by East African governments to suppress fundamental human rights. What's your take on it? We seem to be having a challenge getting Stella, but I'm sure she has a lot to say when it comes to this matter. Let's just try and fix the audio and then come back to her. But Njeri, coming to you, I mean, you talked about the fact that we saw President William Ruto apologize, not just to Tanzania, but equally to Uganda. Let's not forget that last year, Dr. Kiza Besigye was abducted from Nairobi. I mean, who should he be apologizing to, really? Is it?
I think that, I mean, we should have an apology from Tanzania. Why they actually literally abducted a citizen of a friendly nation, East African community for that matter, an East African nation, why they had to take him from the hotel, go to the police station, and then abduct him from the police station, and then give him to criminals. But, you know, Ashley, this is not only unique for Tanzania. This happens here too. If you remember the debates we had about abductions, that is just a replica. These youth who came from the dark dungeons where they were kept, they explained to us the same story. They said we were taken here blindfolded, and then after that we were taken to another room again blindfolded, and we were being asked this or that question, whether what's your password of your phone, and and I think if you're interested to know about the cyber crime, I'm sure you have this coming up. This phone, the way it has been made, it's sort of like a lifeline. It's people's lives. So when the security agencies want your phone, I mean, they can still access your phone and get all the data they want, but it is not fully that they cannot access your phone fully. So they've got to take it physically and then take it to the cybercrime unit and then try to harvest all the information they need. That again is illegal per the law, because you are breaching the rules of privacy, number one. Number two, you are misusing my phone. You are misusing my gadget. And that is against the Cybercrime Act, is against the Data Protection Act, is against the constitution of our country. So I think Tanzania, in fact, I don't blame Tanzania, because that is I don't know their rules, how they operate, but the level at which we have put Kenya, we do not expect this to happen. And therefore we expect the president to really send a letter to Tanzania for Tanzania to explain whether it is true these people were tortured, whether they were returned to the country correctly, because what reason can you give for banning Martha Karua from stepping foot in Tanzania? What reasons can you give for banning Boniface Mwangi from traveling to Tanzania? That's again, there are several charters since 1948 to date, until 1984, for example. The African Charter of Human Rights, then there are United Nations documents that allow citizens to move freely, and especially not to be subjected to torture. In fact, torture is the most inhumane activity you can do to a human being, because, I mean, if you look at what the activists are saying, Agatha and Boniface, I mean, those kind of explanations.
Even sexual abuse.
Yes. Who can withstand that? I mean, who can withstand that? Nobody can withstand that. It does not matter. It's a young person, it's an old person. That kind of inhumane torture of a citizen or a human being cannot be condoned. And I'm not worried about Kenya, Ashley. I am waiting keenly to see what the European countries will say, what United States says, what, Asian countries will say about this particular thing, because injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere. So it could happen to anybody in any part of the world.
Okay. Karen, do we have Stella now? Okay, let's now get to Stella. Stella, I hope you can hear me clearly this time. I mean, we're looking at it from an East African perspective. Critics are saying it seems coordinated. Where do you stand when it comes to this particular issue?
Ashley, first of all, thank you very much for having me.
Karibu.
I must express extreme disappointment in how this entire matter has been handled. both by the government of Kenya, the government of Tanzania, and the East Africa community itself. The silence is deafening, and definitely by the AU. And there's a reason why I'm mentioning all those agencies. My colleague was speaking for the part where I could hear him speaking, and he mentioned a few instruments that are under the AU that actually govern the situation that Boni and Agatha found themselves in. Actually, if you read the East African Treaty and the additional protocols that have been passed to be able to support the regional integration process, you discover that mechanisms have been created for citizens to travel freely. There is the treaty establishing a customs union, and there is the common market protocol that then allow one, people to move freely, and number two, people to do business freely in the region. Now, the one that allows people to move freely normally guarantees, first of all, provides for a single customs territory. A single customs territory actually means that everybody who's moving in the region, once you cross one border, as soon as it is registered and that you've moved through one border, every other border in the region then gets to know that you have moved through that border. If you're a criminal, it is picked up with all the borders, not just in Tanzania, but in every other part of the East Africa community. Apart from the single customs territory, there's also the East African passport. I don't know whether you are aware, Ashley, that the passports that we hold now are East African passports and not Kenyan passports or Tanzanian passports, etc. As a matter of fact, we are being encouraged to move towards having a digital East African passport so that the data can be processed in an easier way. When these people moved through the border, all of them were processed through the border. If there's an offense that was found on Boni's account or on Agatha's account, the government of Tanzania had either a responsibility of prosecuting them on their soil or deporting them back to their country if they didn't have the paperwork that is required. The only grounds against which anybody should be barred from entering another country once they are holders of an East Africa passport is health, security, and if they do not have the paperwork that is required, policy issues. I do not remember any of them suffering from a disease that is being controlled in the region. I don't remember any policy issues being mentioned anywhere concerning this matter. Neither do I see any security threat that these two people were going to cause, especially because their reasons for travel were known. They had already been admitted in the country. Every level of assessment had assumed that they're legitimate. For them to come out of a country having been tortured, and our Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which is responsible for taking care of citizens outside this country, does not even look like it's interested in following up to ensure that action is taken to defend them, is a huge problem, Ashley. It's a huge problem, not because of Boni and Agatha in the case of Uganda. It is a huge problem in the case of other people who are traveling outside the world. The question everybody who's outside this country should be asking themselves is, are they in safe hands, and pun intended, with that gentleman who's running the State Department for Foreign Affairs, Musalia Mudavadi? Are they in safe hands with the Ambassador Singoei, who's second in command as far as handling citizens outside the country? A person who is born in Kenya or gains citizenship through the other mechanisms available to become a citizen is still a citizen even when they're outside the territory of Kenya. They are still a citizen even when they're incarcerated abroad. It doesn't matter, Ashley, what kind of crime they are found committing, whether it is drugs, whether it is even murder. They are still citizens of Kenya, and the State Department for Foreign Affairs is the one mandated to take care of them abroad. They haven't even done enough to demand accountability from Tanzania, and I found my colleague talking about the fact that the president irresponsibly apologized to Tanzania. I think every single member of the head of state should be asking Tanzania to account for why their citizens were tortured on Tanzanian soil, number one. Number two, I think the East Africa community needs to pronounce itself quickly, because actually, I don't know if tomorrow KTN is going to send you to Tanzania. I don't know if somebody else is going to be sent to Tanzania, and we are not even sure if individuals are safe when they travel to those countries. Are we now saying we live in a region where governments are going to collaborate to punish dissent? When did it become wrong for citizens to actually ask their governments to be accountable about certain things? When there's a case as high profile, Ashley, as a treason case, linking the leader of the opposition, and in a situation where the opposition has actually been removed from participating in an election like the situation is in Tanzania, obviously other judiciaries are going to take interest in the case. The countries in the East Africa community have been learning from each other, not just on judicial practice. They have been learning on matters of ethics and anti-corruption, and the anti-corruption bodies have been meeting just last week, but one you saw we had a meeting here of the security sector from the entire region, and you saw even one of the enemies of the cells of Kenya visiting from the US to come for the same. People are constantly collaborating for different activities of governance, and the judicial activity is no exception. I don't see any grounds upon which Boni and Atuhaire were to be tortured. I don't see any grounds based on which the former CJ Emeritus, William Tunga, was deported from Tanzanian soils. I don't see any grounds against which Martha Karua was deported from those soils, and everybody else who accompanied them, even if they are branded activists. But dangerously so, Ashley, one of the things I'm most disturbed by is the fact that this is torture, and the rest of the world, apart from the US Bureau for Africa, is very quiet about this matter. Torture is illegal under any constitution, under any law. The AU itself should be completely disturbed that this kind of news is coming out of Tanzania. I don't know whether they're waiting for a botched election for them to now go there and start doing peacekeeping when something has gone wrong. I think the African Commission on People and Human Rights should be asking questions to Tanzania, because they're party to it, asking them to account as to why people have been tortured on their soils, because they are the gatekeepers, and this is the AUC chairman. They are the gatekeepers on implementation of human rights in the continent. I also believe, Ashley, that the AUC should also demand that they account as to the question of the African Convention on Democracy, Elections and Governance, because something is definitely going very wrong in Tanzania, and they're embarrassed about it, which is why they will not allow people to go in there and observe. There is no illegality in observing a judicial process in a country. I know the procedures for lawyers to practice across borders have not been finalized by the East African Legislative Assembly. However, there are provisions for individuals to apply for documentation and licenses to work, and they're given annually. Martha Karua had at least for 1 year. They claim that her paper had been completed, but nothing was stopping her from going there to observe that judicial process. You saw today what is happening, which basically tells you that they don't even want anyone to observe what they're doing to Tundu Lissu. They even stop people from getting into the courts. What kind of court process is this that they're engaging in, that they do not even want people to come and witness what they're doing if it's truly truthful? Okay. And then the Okawe speaks up, the only CCM member of parliament who has spoken authoritatively about this matter, and they decided to shut down his church because he used the church podium to address 2,141 of his branches concerning the matter. Tanzania will be free, whether it is now or in the future, because the idea of dictating, torturing people is an idea whose time has gone.
Okay.
Ashley,
yeah.
I just need to mention that we have very good and cordial relationship between Kenya and Tanzania. This must come out clearly. I don't think Kenyan brothers and sisters have an issue with Tanzanian brothers and sisters. The problem is at the leadership, executive especially, leadership level, where leaders have grouped together like cartels and decided this is where we want to go as a grouping. In fact, many of them don't care about the citizens. So when you try to interfere by such analysis, visiting the country, going to the courts, then they feel like you're sort of intimidating them and you are a threat to their plans.
Okay.
But the ordinary Tanzanian and the ordinary Kenyan are actually friendly, completely, we speak the same language.
We're brothers and sisters.
And I wanted to just give me a minute, I say this. Any act by which severe pain or suffering, whether physical or mental, is intentionally inflicted for purposes such as obtaining information, punishment, intimidation, by or with the consent of a public official, that is torture. And here, this is the Convention Against Torture, 1984. And it says that no exceptional circumstances, war, terrorism, public emergency, can justify torture. So if Boniface is asked for a phone or password and he refuses, it is still not a justification. So what we expect Tanzania to be saying right now is Kenyan citizens who are in our custody, in the police cells, we are investigating how they left the police cells and what they are claiming happened. You cannot be silent about this. In fact, we have so many tourists who come to Tanzania. They come over to Kenya and then they cross over to Tanzania. So what's going to happen? I mean, how are people, how are they looking at this? In case there's a problem, they run into a problem with the law or the police, is this the way they will be handled? So it's a big thing. Of course, we saw Agatha and Boniface narrate their ordeal, but I think Tanzania will be in a bigger ordeal in terms of economic and tourism and relationships with other countries, unless it clearly comes out and says, we did not torture, we had no intention, we have since investigated, we are now aware it is Mr. So and so who tortured Boniface Mwangi, and they are facing the law.
But it's more like our word against yours in such a scenario. Then what happens next? What about rights?
You see, the Boniface was in a hotel together with Agatha, and they were picked. That hotel has a responsibility to give information, and then they were in a certain police station. That police station has a responsibility. The Tanganyika Law Society operates in Tanzania. It must give an official strong statement. There is what we call East African Law Society. It must give a very strong statement. So I don't think this is something that you can try to hide or to put under the carpet. It is not possible.
All right, Stella, coming to you and briefly, because we want to take a short break. I mean, the PLP leader, Martha Karua, has called on the Africa Union through Africa Commission of Human Rights to establish a commission of inquiry into human rights abuses in Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda. What are the chances of a fair trial? I mean, both you and Njeri Vows share this sentiment that this seems to be a coordinated group against, citizens of East Africa, for lack of a better way of putting it. So then, will it be a fair trial, really, if the powers that be can interfere?
Thank you very much for that question, Ashley, and it's a critical question. First of all, the move that has been made by the Honorable Martha Karua is a valid move, and rightly so. We need to get the African Commission on People and Human Rights asking Tanzania to account for what has just happened on their soils. So that move is correct. Number two, and I want to disagree with my colleague that Kenya and Tanzania have very good relations. I think when you look under the surface, you will find that there are certain undercurrents that haven't been dealt with. And I think I've mentioned this in this studio before, Ashley. The third one has to do with the fact that the kind of trial that we're expecting may not necessarily be a courtroom process as much as it would be governments responding to the accountability mechanisms that they have committed themselves to. And that is why the Honorable Martha has gone to the apex institution, which is the SCPHR. Of course, organizations such as SADC can still write to Tanzania and demand that they account, because Tanzania is also a member of SADC, as they are a member of the East Africa community. Even in the SADC, they have committed to good governance. The government of Kenya, the government of Uganda can demand accountability and report back to the citizens of their country on the actions that are being taken concerning these individuals. The Africa peer review mechanism can actually follow up and demand accountability, because there are certain tenets that Tanzania has committed itself to. So it may not necessarily be a court. Eventually, there may eventually result a courtroom process that may even end up in compensation for those two individuals, especially if they manage to catch a few people guilty. And I'm glad Bonnie and Agatha managed to name certain individuals, but then it will first start with accountability from a government perspective. Will these two governments cooperate? Ashley, I'm going to say this without batting an eyelid. They are not planning to cooperate. That is why you have noticed my voice is constantly going to people outside of them. If they are planning to cooperate, do you know who is the chairman of the Heads of State Summit right now? It is the President of Kenya. If he was keen on making sure that he gets answers concerning this matter, he would be able to update us on a daily basis, because the chairman of the Heads of State Summit is constantly able to ask the secretary to give him an update on any matter. So if he has an update, if he's keeping quiet and not informing Kenyans, it's because he has chosen not to inform Kenyans. I want that we also take note of the fact that there is shrinking political space in the entire continent. Majority of the governments are slowly becoming dictatorships. And so we must be very careful about the kind of solidarity of bad manners that we are seeing arising right now, where we have governments collaborating for this kind of thing. You had Agatha saying that it is at the point after she had been tortured that someone came and told him, we didn't realize you're this famous. So if it was a small person, they would actually get lost. And Ashley, I'm not just making this up. The Honorable Gwajima of Kawe has actually demanded that his party and the government accounts for 83 abductions. 82 and 83 is Agatha and Boni. 81 are Tanzanians. Even Tanzanians are not happy in their situation. They just don't have the space to speak as much as Kenyans have space to speak.
Okay.
And that is something that we have to have solidarity with them and support them with eventually. But first, let's get justice for the son of the soil, irrespective of who in government dislikes him. He is not supposed to be tortured by anybody, not a Kenyan government official, not a foreign government official.
All right, hold that thought. We'll be back shortly after the break.
Elected by West Mugirango constituency in Nyamira County. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Peter Chamweno. I'm Director of Departmental Committees, and with me are members of staff from the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Senate is the place of Dr. Nyikal, Chairman have. That's Professor Adwell. Shows how to produce professors and doctors. Thank you. Secretary Tams, please give him the off.
Put on. Mr. Babu, do I hold on the right hand?
Right hand.
Good. I, Francis Odhiambo Adwell, do swear that the information I shall give before this committee on the matter under its consideration shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God.
Right, Professor. Now we give you just about 10 minutes. Can you walk us through the journey of your life, right from some place in Seme to this great city of Nairobi, and today to this seat? They must be extremely interesting, and one which I think our young people should be listening to as to what a human being can achieve. Start, Professor.
Thank you very much, Chair. First of all, I would like to express my special appreciation to our President, His Excellency Dr. Ruto, for finding it fit to nominate me to come and appear before yourselves with the hope that I can be eventually appointed to be a commissioner in IEBC. Chairman, I also would like to thank you for even convening this committee to come and listen to me on this special day of Saturday. And perhaps more important for me also is that I find that I'm among some of the people who I know well and seem to know me well. Each one of them declared that they didn't have conflict of interest. Perhaps I should also do so, but now that I'm sitting on this side, maybe I'm not expected to do so. Chair, I understand you come from Tharaka Nithi, The only interest I might declare is that I've had a chance to be in a place called Marimanti. Now, that's my constituency,
Marimanti.
Yes, I've been there, but that's another story. Thank you. My name is Francis Aduo. I am a Kenyan by birth and ancestry. My ancestral home is in Seme sub-county or Seme constituency of Kisumu County. You asked me to start my story basically from the village. And so the village is in Seme. I come from a small place called Alungo, right on the shores of Lake Victoria in Seme sub-county. I went to schools, local schools in Seme, primary school, and partly to primary school in Kisumu municipality. I took my secondary school education at Kisumu Boys High School and my high school at Maseno School. After Maseno School, I joined the University of Nairobi to study for a Bachelor of Science in Engineering degree with specialization in the area of surveying and photogrammetry. On my graduation, I took up a job with the Government Survey Department as a land surveyor, and on which I stayed for about 13 months. And then I was invited back to the University of Nairobi to take up a position as tutorial fellow, which position put me in a situation where I was a junior lecturer and also a postgraduate student at the same time. On completion of my master's degree, I was shortly afterwards promoted to the position of lecturer. And subsequently, I won a scholarship to proceed for my PhD studies in the Federal Republic of Germany at the University of Stuttgart, where I completed my PhD in 1988 and graduated with a Doctor of Engineering degree in the field of geodesy. Geodesy is the mathematical study of the size and shape of the Earth. It is an important area in the broad field of surveying. So I'm an expert on how large the Earth is or how small it is, how it looks like, and those kind of things. On my completion of the PhD, I returned to Kenya and continued with my work at the University of Nairobi. Shortly after that, I was promoted to the position of senior lecturer. And in 1994, I became an associate professor in surveying at the university. In 2001, I became full professor and gave my inaugural lecture in 2006. Going back a little on the professional side, I'm a fully registered surveyor in this country. And within the University of Nairobi, I was involved in a lot of things to do with university administration. I was head of department in 1991 to 1995. 95 to 1999, I was dean of the Faculty of Engineering. And from 99 to 2000, College of Architecture and Engineering. In 2008, I was appointed to become the inaugural principal of what was then the Kenya Polytechnic University College. And when the University College was promoted or elevated to university status in 2013, I also became the inaugural Vice Chancellor. I did my 2 terms of 5 years, and completed my tour of duty successfully in 2023 May, and thereafter I took up a position as professor in the Technical University of Kenya. This was a position on contract now, and my contract just expired about how many days ago? I think 16 days ago. I did my last day at the Technical University of Kenya on 15th May. And so roughly, that has been my journey. Now, as a university administrator, I have been involved in a lot of work in this country at committee level, and you will see from my CV, I think I've been involved in almost 40 committees, probably 20 of them I have been chairman, most of them to do with the development of higher education in this country. I will just cite a few, about four things or 5 things that I've been involved in, and then probably we can continue from there. At the University of Nairobi, I was the first person to I chaired the first strategic plan of the University of Nairobi. I also became chair of a committee that reviewed the structure of the University of Nairobi. I think this was around 2006, 2007. Before that, I chaired a major committee of the university that worked out the costs of academic programs in the university. This is what became known in this country as differentiated unit cost. And before that, I chaired another committee which was tasked with the responsibility of determining how many lecturers the university needed to have. And a lot of this was original work, which meant that I had to think through and come up with formulas that could work. And later on, I think in 1998, I was a member of a very important committee which worked out the methodology of that those days Joint Admissions Board, the methodology for admitting students in the university, what eventually became known as the weighted cluster method. This is the method that is still used now by KUCCPS to admit our students in the university. We revised it in 2012. At that time, I was now the chair of the committee, and a lot of this was original work, so I developed a formula which allows us to do this. I have served on international committees in the International Association of Geodesy. At one stage, I was a member of the subcommittee dealing with statistics and computations. I consider myself to have specialized expertise in that area, and I was made a member of this subcommittee. I have served as a member of the Association of Commonwealth Universities, which is the Commonwealth universities in the world, created in 2013, responsible for 500 universities in the world. The membership is usually about 25 people, and I consider that this was big prestige that I should have been nominated to serve on this committee. So, Chairman, I think this gives a rough view of what I am. I've left out something which is to do with why I have applied to be a member of IEBC Commission. So I don't know whether I can tackle that right now, or I leave it to you to prompt me. Thank you.
We will prompt you because all of us are looking at exactly the professor. So, Professor, take a piece of paper and a pen. We will ask our question in succession quickly, and when your time comes, I'll guide you to give concise answers so that we do not take a lot of time on this. And just to start us off, Professor, there is no doubt whatsoever in your academic field, in survey engineering, you are an expert par excellence. I don't think anybody would doubt this, although we do not have the experience in those fields. But suddenly, and later in life, you now have to become an expert in election matters. Start with telling us, what expertise are you taking to IEBC so that when Kenyans look at the IEBC Commission itself, they see Professor Francis Aduol. They know for sure IEBC is going to deliver elections that are fair, free, credible, and verifiable. What gives you that metal which you can give to us regarding your expertise in election matters, and especially in view of the fact that you've been a scientist who knows the size of the earth, how big it is or how small it is. Thank you. Honorable Mutuse.
Thank you, Chairman. I would allow the professor to finish taking his sip so then he can be able to write. Talk to us about the delimitation of boundaries. You know, there has been debate in this country, and I know you are also familiar with the provisions of Article 89 of the Constitution. There has been debate about where to put in more weight: population, geography, historical community interests. In your own expertise, and now as a nominee to become a commissioner at IBC, what is your view regarding the limitation of boundaries in view of those parameters? And Kenya is, because you have said you are an expert of the earth, and Kenya is part of the earth. Kenya, and you know sizes and you know all these things. Kenya is presently electoral-wise divided, 290 constituencies, 1,450 electoral wards, 47 counties. Are we overrepresented? Thank you.
Thank you very much. From there we go to Honorable Mogaka, West Mogirango.
Thank you so much. As an offshoot from the Vice Chair's question, Professor, and thanks for applying. What expertise are you able to bring to the Commission if you were appointed to help us circumvent or expeditiously achieve the boundary delimitation that was contemplated, were it not for the lack of IBC? The second question is about your tour of duty at the university. There have been allegations, true or false, that at the university marks are traded for cash or other considerations, including sex. How true are these allegations during your tour of duty? And can you allay the Kenyans' fears that votes are not going to be traded for whatever? And finally, I noted in your opening remarks you had a lot of gratitude to His Excellency the President for nominating you to this, to come for this interview, and thanks for also showering gratitude to our chair. But then, to the Kenyans watching, is there a chance that that gratitude to the nominating office might be extended to favor if you were in that commission? In other words, my neighbor at Continental House, the prospective presidential candidate last year, can he rest assured that you will not be of favor to His Excellency Dr. William Ruto at his expense? And that is with a lot of respect to every other aspiring candidate, including Emeritus CJ David Maraga. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Tindamolo.
I thought Honorable Farah was going to object to mention Honorable Salasia's name. Why would a professor of geospatial science and engineering want to be a commissioner at IBC? Thank you.
Honorable Kalemba.
Now, Chair, IBC is an entity associated with huge pending bills, and mostly after elections. I would like to ask the professor, what is his relationship with wedding bills, and especially while at the Technical University of Kenya?
All right, Honorable Makalim. John.
First is to allow the professor a 45-page CV. I think I'm impressed. But Professor, I think you are involved in largely in the Independent Boundaries Review Commission that was chaired by the late Ligale in the limitation of boundaries. And I have seen from the folders you actually played a critical role in the delimitation of boundaries at the first time. After that report created hue and cry. There was a series of litigation that went to courts over that report. In fact, some people still cry up to now because of that report. We are yet to do another delimitation of boundaries. What are the lessons learned from that report, the work which you did, which if given a chance now by going to the commission, you will do differently and not do it the same way you did the other time, that will not generate a lot of litigation that was generated at that time by that report? What is the lessons learned from that report?
Thank you. Honorable Dawood of Wajir East.
Chair, my questions has been asked by my colleague from Nyamira.
Thank you very much. Honorable Farah from Dadaab, Garissa.
Professor, I see the CV and I see how much your services are required in the delimitation of boundaries in the future, because that expertise is one thing that I believe is in very short supply in this country. And but there are many of us who believe that the delimitation cannot be done before the next census, because the census of 2019 was doctored, and the courts have pronounced themselves to that. So unless there's going to be a credible census, which I believe will be done in 2029, we cannot do any further delimitation. But having said that, I just want to say that you have a sterling history, and we're looking forward to you doing an equally sterling job on the issue of delimitation, because you are an expert in that area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Michael Musura, Jorok.
Chairman, my question was on delimitation and has been asked.
Thank you.
Chairman.
I put of mine. Okay.
My question was on delimitation of boundaries and has been asked.
Thank you very much, Honorable Zelaya.
Thank you, Chairman. My question was also on delimitation, but I will also add one more on issues of technology.
Are you looking for video live streaming services? You want your church services to be on air? You do not know where to market your goods and services? At Sound Candid Talk, we deliver the best live stream services for your events, product and service launches, conferences, weddings, and live. Reach on us today.